Good evening and welcome to a political forum here in the town of Kingston. Great to see the place is a packed house. It's a Kingston Townhouse. It's their annual candidates night. And of course, this is sponsored by the Democratic Town Committee, but it's a bipartisan event, which makes it great. Every candidate that's running for office, whether it's opposed or unopposed, has a chance to say something tonight. I'm Christine James, your moderator. I work for WATD. I'm the managing news editor. This October, I will have been there 29 years. I started as a fourth grade intern. No, thank you. No, it's fun. It is fun. So I am joined tonight by WATD's Charles Mathewson. Always great to see you here, Charlie.
Hello.
Hello. Kathy Gallerani, we've done this for many years as well. You are with Wicked Local, another great reporter. You've been doing this for over 20 years, too.
Yes, I have.
Oh, it's always exciting in Kingston. You know, we were just talking a little bit earlier, some towns, even in towns where there have been really, really busy political years, all these uncontested seats coming up. It's surprising, but you know what? You can count on Kingston. You guys are really into politics, and it's great. So we appreciate being here. So before we get started tonight, just letting you know that we go in the order of the ballot. And first we give people that are running uncontested, they have 1 minute to stand up and say something. And when I say 1 minute, I mean it, because we've got our timer here, Stephen Murphy. He's got the cards, I've got the bell. So that means 1 minute is 1 minute. And I also remind people when you get up and ask questions, because we'll give you a chance, don't get up over and over again. We've got 6 contested races. I want to get out of here at a decent time tonight. If you've got a question, get to the point. No rambling. No thinly veiled insults where you take 4 or 5 sentences to get to the question, get to the point. If you ramble, if you start with the insults, if it's a personal vendetta, I will cut you off. So just so we know what the rules are tonight. On that cheery note, let me send that over to Ed Bielecki. He, of course, is chairman of the Kingston Democratic Town Committee, wanted to say a few words.
Thank you, Christine. We just wanted to, as a committee, thank Christine James, WATD, members of PAC TV and Wicked Local, and all of you citizens and candidates here tonight and people at home that are going to be watching. We really want to look forward to and have a very informative night for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. That was brief. That was great. And again, if I forgot to say, thank you for PAC TV. The guys are right in the booth there. Thank you. You're always great media partner. We appreciate everything you do in conjunction with us and everything you do on your own. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to follow the order of the ballot, and we'd like to start with first go through very quickly the uncontested races, and if the candidate is here and wants to get up for a minute and say something, please do. So the first uncontested race here is the collector of taxes. Not sure if Carolyn Gavigan Wilson, are you here? Okay, so not here. We'll go to the next uncontested race, and that would be Water Commissioner Robert Erlinson, and I believe he is here tonight. Okay, so we come up. Water Commissioner. He'll be handing out bottled water. No pressure. Okay.
Right here?
Yeah, either right there is fine.
Okay. 1 minute, right?
1 minute.
So, good evening. My name is Bob Erlanson. I live at 99 Monks Hill Lane, and I've been in town for about 20 years or so. I've decided to run for Water Commissioner this year to do my part for town governance. My educational background is in earth sciences. I have a degree in atmospheric sciences from University of Wisconsin-Madison. Big interest in geophysics, pretty much your typical science geek. So I really enjoy working around with the people who are on the board already. Looking forward to reading the 111-page summary of the water system in town and doing what I can to maintain what is really one of the best water systems in the South Shore. Really is a piece of work, so I want to keep it that way. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Robert Erlinson. Is it Erlinson? Am I pronouncing it?
Erlinson, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, running for Water Commissioner. Next uncontested seat, Board of Health, 2 candidates, Joseph Kasna and William Cavill. Are they both here? Neither here. Okay, let's move on. Library trustee, vote for 1, Karen Wiebel. Are you here, Karen? Okay. All right. I'm not going to use my tired old joke, must be reading a book, but I kind of can't help myself. All right. Other library trustees, Cynthia Fitzgerald and Lisa Warren. Cynthia, I see you right there. Can't run and hide.
am Cindy Fitzgerald, and I am running for my 4th term as a library trustee, and hope you'll consider voting for me. It is an unopposed position that I am running for. I live at 12 Sunset Road with my husband, David, and my daughter, Caitlin. And thank you all for coming. It's a great turnout.
Great, thank you. And so Lisa Warren's not here tonight?
I was under the impression that she was going to be coming later.
Okay, all right. She's down the hall?
Okay.
Okay, if she runs in here very quickly right now, we can do it. All right, meanwhile, let's move on to the Recreation Commissioner, Lori Graciano. Lori here? Nope. Okay. And let's see, then we got Constable, Brian Graziano and Robert Short, either one of those gentlemen here tonight? No, I don't see that, okay. And then if Lisa can make it back down the hall very quickly, we'll put her on. If not, she missed her chance here, because we're gonna get started. Again, we're gonna try to do this, we're gonna try to make it very, I'd say compact, because we got a lot of races to get through, so we're gonna get right to the point with the questions and everything else. So, let's get ready to rumble. And let's bring up the first 3 candidates, and that is for the Board of Selectmen. And we've got Peter Bonsek, Paul Dolan, and Jessica Kramer. Please come up here and take a seat wherever you'd like to sit. And we always stick with the same format that we use for WATD, and there's always an opening and closing statement I've asked them to have prepared, and we're asking them to stick to 1 minute for each of those opening and closing statements. 1 minute, yeah, because we got a lot of races. I know you can speak quickly. All right, so let's start down at the other end. Please say your name and get started with your 1 minute statement, and then we'll have a round of questions from the press, and we'll also do our famous lightning round. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Paul Dolan. I'm running for Board of Selectmen for the 1-year term, hopefully replacing Kathleen Lenatra, who has left or is leaving the position. I'm a longtime resident of Kingston. I live on 147 Brookdale Street. I'm on the Kingston Zoning Board of Appeals. I grew up in this town. I'm a townie. I'm looking forward to hopefully being on the Board of Selectmen to help this town in other ways other than the ways I'm helping currently. And that's it.
Thank you very much. That was your 1 minute opening statement, and that was Paul Dolan. Now let's go right to Jessica Kramer. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Kramer, and I'm running for the 1-year seat. We're all inclined to gravitate towards people who share our values and interests. When I moved to Kingston 4 years ago, I didn't have that luxury. I was a single mom of 2 toddlers, and I had to find my people. I had to reach out to the community and meet different people from different walks of life that all shared a home in Kingston. My quest for community allowed me to hear the stories of new friends and neighbors, people who had come from different places, but all of their paths led here. I learned what makes our community so beautiful is our differences, that we can all share a deep love for Kingston, yet hold vastly different visions for its future. Kingston is a tapestry of different neighborhoods, different people, different opinions. We need leaders who embrace the views of others and can put self-interest aside for the good of the community. I come before you asking for the opportunity to be that leader.
Thank you very much. As you can tell, the timekeeper is very serious here. Which is great. And that's where we find the construction paper works wonders. Green is go, yellow is 10 seconds, red is stop. Okay, so let's say good evening to Peter Bonsek.
Good evening. I'm Peter Bonsek. I'm glad Christine said let's get ready to rumble, because I'm going to go right into something that recently came out in the Wicked Local about the legal fees. And I got to say that myself and a lot of people were disappointed by the way it was pointed out. There was 3 people on this article, myself, Sue Mumford, and Dan Harlow. So, we requested to get details of all the legal fees that are being spent, and some reason, or there's a particular reason, that myself, Sue Mumford, and Dan Harlow were named. To me, it was, again, a political move by Tom Coulter and Joshua Warren, who has been constantly trying to shut down us people because they don't want us to get elected, okay? This is some of the problems we have with town. We need to have people, 10 seconds, we need to have people that want to represent the people and do not come up and make games of this. Thank you.
Okay, that was the opening statement. Peter Bonsack. Now we're going to get right to the questions. Let's start with Kathy Gallerani. Your questions for the candidates.
Yes, what principal challenges do you see facing Kingston over the next 3 years, and how do you propose to meet them?
Can you folks in the audience hear Kathy? Because I can't hear, and I'm right up here. Anyway, we can turn the PA up a little bit. Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Lean the mic
Okay.
over the top.
Kathy, can we hear you? Okay, how's that sound? Better?
What principal challenges do you see facing Kingston over the next 3 years, and how do you propose to meet them?
And who's that directed at? Shall we start with Jessica?
So for the next 3 years and on into the future, we absolutely need to focus on making our budget sustainable. We have great teams in place that have tried to tighten up the budget that we have and to actually look for new ways of growing revenue. But the truth is that it isn't sustainable for a lot of people. We want this to be a community where people can grow old and stay, and part of that is going to be to have to offset our residential tax base through finding revenue from commercial growth and economic development.
Thank you. Same question to the other candidates. Let's go to Peter second.
Well, you know, again, everything is about taxes. This town overspends like crazy. And I'm going to give you an example. Right before I came here, I was trying to do a little comparity with other towns, and it just happened to be the first one. Town of Acton has 22,000 residents, 20.3 square miles, and for the FY17 budget was $32,247,000. Town of Kingston, 13,000 residents, 9,000 less, 20.5 square miles. We're very well in comparison. But our budget was almost $43 million. What does that tell you? We have to cut back. We have to stop overspending. And it is affecting seniors, the people who are on fixed incomes that are being hurt as much, probably more so than the average resident of the town. We need to stop the overspending, and that's going to be my priority if I get in.
Okay. Do you mind if I jump ahead of you, Charlie? Because this is one of my
I
questions.
mind. Yeah.
That's okay, but you're a gentleman. You won't mind. Do you want
I'd
to?
like to ask all.
Okay, follow
all
up.
the-
Okay, Kathy's got a follow up.
No, I'd just like to hear Paul's answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I'd
See?
see.
You started in the middle.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. So, I agree with Ms. Kramer. We, sorry, Mrs. Kramer, Ms. Kramer? Yes, we have to have a fiscal responsibility. Our budget is high, but that is our budget, and that's the budget we have. And I think we need to use the commercial areas we have in town to really focus and try to bring in new revenue. I know we have other ideas that the town is fighting back and forth about getting other revenue in different ways. The budget is our budget. We spend a good amount of money on schools, fire, police. We don't complain when they show up fast. They do a good job, and that's the reason why we have, top-notch employees, top-notch police, fire, school. People want to come to this town for that reason. And so I think our challenges are not necessarily cutting, but more being responsible. Paying attention to the fact of, these are what our taxes are, these are what our bills are. Sorry.
Kind of anemic bell here, but that means you're done.
Where's the
Sorry,
regular bell?
the regular bell's in my office, I'm sorry. But I want to ask a quick.
Christine, do you have a question?
Yes, I do, thank you. I've got a quick follow, and this is what, we hear this in every single town, people complaining about taxes and how much they're paying. Here's what I want to know in 1 minute. Tell me how you're going to save money for the town of Kingston. Let's start with you, Peter Bonsack.
Well, first of all, we got a town meeting coming up that I'm going to be voting against a lot of the items that are there. Sewer expansion, $27 million. It's something we do not need right now. That will increase our taxes. You ever hear of does anybody know what the definition of a hiring freeze is? Well, apparently our leaders don't, because every single time they need something, Somebody goes, they raise the hiring freeze. They brought in 4 management positions that were supposed to be part-time, has become full-time within 6 months of it being brought in. We have spent it too much, and I plan on looking at all aspects to see some people may leave.
Okay. Same question, Paul. How can you save the town of
repeat the question
Kingston
for me?
money? Yep. How can you specifically save the town of Kingston money?
Saving over the long run would be to be more efficient. We got to realize that this town is growing really fast. And when that happens, what happens is, in order to keep up with it, our budget may have to balloon in order to keep up with this growth of people who want to be in this town. So we need to be efficient and streamline, which I think all these departments are doing with the budget they have. So just talking to the fire chief today, he said they're doing a lot of things with what the little, it's not little, with the budget they have and making it work.
But specifically, how are you going to save the town of Kingston money? I still didn't hear an answer.
Specifically, we'd have to really grow the economic ways that we need near the mall. We need to keep that alive. All these things. There's no saving money. Saving money over time is by trying to keep the budget the same over time. You're not going to cut the budget. The budget is what it is. Unless you want to start cutting jobs, then that's the only other option. You're not going to be, only thing you're going to cut is personnel.
Okay. Same question, Jessica. How are you going to save the town of Kingston money?
So my background is in finance and running businesses. I was previously the CFO of a company that had an annual budget of $30 million. So I'm very used to finding things to cut out and managing budgets. As Mr. Dallin said, it's sometimes hard, or it's oversimplifying a complex problem to say, hey, I'm going to cut X, Y, and Z, and that's going to solve the problem. We really need to look into the future, and solutions are having to do more with offsetting costs through new revenue streams, looking at regionalization, and building our commercial base through economic development.
Okay, thank you. Charles Mathewson, questions for the candidates?
Let's say that Kingston has an unusual town meeting. I attend town meetings, report on town meetings all over the South Shore. And for Kingston, I have to reserve, 2, 3, 4 weeks. There are 3 articles on the upcoming town meeting warrant that would change the way town meeting is conducted. I want to address 2 of those now, and then a third and a follow-up question. First is Article 37, decorum in debate by following town meeting times, and Article 38, banning reconsiderations. I want to know how you each feel about those 2 articles. Let's start with Paul.
Give me the first article again.
First
sorry.
one is setting some standards for decorum of debate.
All right. I think the debate, sometimes you're right, these meetings get long, and I think it's because these meetings are so long, people show up for the things that they want to show up for, and then they leave, which is a problem. And that being said, people should be direct to the point. That way people can talk and, deal with what's going on there, and not, like I said, in other meetings, it continues and continues. And when the second article you have?
No reconsideration of articles.
That's a tough one. I don't have a direct answer for that. I get it why people don't like it, but it's got to be in there for a reason. That why was it there? And like I said, people, because of the first article, people just want to be there for their first things, and then come to find out reconsiderations come back later on. So I don't know my pure stance on the second article, because I think there was a reason why it was put in there over time, and that's why it's in the literature you read.
Okay, thanks.
Jess Kramer?
So I was actually part of the group who met, came together across the table to discuss town meeting. It was led by Bill Marabito, and these 2 articles kind of came from that group. The first one regarding decorum, although I totally agree with what's behind it and the intention behind it, I do feel that it's on the moderator to set the decorum, and that we have recourse every 3 years at the voting booth when we can vote in a new moderator. The other article about the motion to reconsider, I'm for eliminating the motion to reconsider. I'm just a big advocate of, if we know the rules, we can play by the rules, and everyone knows that the rule currently in place is that you can make a motion to reconsider, and that's been used a lot towards gamesmanship and trying to get articles brought back after people have already left the room, because people that might be new to town meeting are not familiar with that, and that's not the way it should be. It should be a transparent process, and that if the rule is changed so that there is no more motion to reconsider, I think it would be simple to bring more people into town meeting.
Peter Bonsack, what about these two articles?
Well, you know, to me, it's taken away the people's right to speak. Yes, we do go a long time, but you wouldn't have the problems that you have if we got all the information at time, we're not fed misinformation, and that we could have people go up there and obviously not repeat what somebody just said. If you're gonna go up there and repeat what somebody just said, that takes time, you shouldn't be doing it. But anybody who's paying taxes in this town should be able to have their right to speak. And I know some people, because it's impatient, they want to be out of there. Hey, I don't want to be there either, but I'm there because it has to get done. And as far as the reconsideration, I'd like to, I wouldn't mind trying that on a trial basis, but if it's going to be into a bylaw right away, I would vote against it.
Okay, and the follow-up to that is I'd like to know your position on Article 39. This is a secret ballot to decide a question, certain questions, not really well defined in the article, but certain questions that selectmen could put aside to be decided at the ballot rather than at town meeting. In Vermont, this is called the Australian ballot question. And I know the petitioner here is a guy named Bonsack.
Yeah, some guy named Bonsack.
Yeah. And you had proposed this as part of the charter change some years ago. So we'll start again with Paul. Do you think we should have an Australian ballot style decision-making process in Kingston?
No. A, we're not Australia. B, at the same time, I think if I understand where the thought is coming from, where people can feel more free to basically decide without any recourse and make it a ballot decision. I think some of these decisions you need to come to the town meeting. You need to have it. You need to put your vote out. You have to be a person to stand accountable for yourself. You know, these meetings are not Facebook. These meetings are not, any other online stuff. You come to town meeting. You do your part. If you don't come to town meeting, then you don't have a right, to complain. So being there, putting your hand up, speaking your part as a citizen, doing your part in speaking, getting up to the mic, that's all part of the town meeting, and I think it should stay. I don't think there should be an Australian version.
Jessica?
We are so lucky to live in a part of the country that still has a traditional town meeting. The debate is such an important part of our community coming together and adjusting our goals so that everyone's needs are weighed and met. There's been multiple times at town meeting that I came in thinking I felt one way about something, and then hearing from my neighbors, I really reconsidered my own thoughts on it. It's such an important part of the process, and I feel like an Australian ballot would take away from that. So no, I'm not for the Australian ballot. I'm for trying to encourage more people to get involved through town meeting and making it a kind of a friendlier place for people to share their different points of view and vote together as a community.
Peter, it's your article.
Well, first of all, it started in Australia, but it's used quite often in the United States. The state of Vermont uses it, okay? And Jessica, you're talking about not having the ability to debate the article. You do have the ability. Town hall will still happen. Town meeting will still happen. Articles will be there. Articles will be debated. But the questions will go on to the ballot. Instead of having 140 people out of 9,000 registered voters decide what your $50 million is going to pay for, at least on election day, we could probably get close to 1,200, if not more. So you will have the right to debate, and it isn't just Australia. So it will be the recommendations of the selectmen to have what articles to go forward. Is probably most of it would be high money articles, but residents will have to be able to petition to have that article on a ballot question. It's gonna, 140 people on 9,000, we need to do something different.
Thanks, Peter. All right. Do you have another follow-up?
No,
Okay.
just that it's called the Australian ballot because Australia was the first country to have a secret ballot. The United States was not.
Okay, thank you. Kathy Gallerani, questions for the candidates?
I have another question about economic development, or at least particular about businesses. What kind of businesses do you want in town, and how do you propose the selectmen should get them here?
Let's start with Peter.
Oh, thank you. This economic development, every time we get around election time, it's either I'm going to be proactive or we're going to do economic development, all right? Today's internet, any large company or companies already know what they're looking for, okay? We only have a limited amount of space to get business to come in here. So you're not going to force, you're not going to draw people in here because they already know what they want beforehand. So, maybe we should start talking about cutting down on the building of homes in Kingston because those are just going to keep adding to our taxes. So, but that's the way I see it. You can't force them here. They know what they want. It's not like the old days where you had to, buying a house, you had to go to the realtor's office, look through books. Everybody looking for a house now already knows what houses they want to look for. That's the same thing with the businesses. So every year it's economic development, and every year since I've been involved in this, nothing has changed.
Okay, Jessica, same question.
It's the type of businesses, is that what you're
Yeah, what kinds of businesses? Small businesses, they don't have to be. What about home-based businesses? Maybe more people have the ability to have that kind of business.
So Kingston really needs the commercial tax base, and that means bringing in the right types of businesses. It would also, but we're really at a bit of a hurdle because we don't have the infrastructure in place to support the types of businesses that would bring in the jobs and the economic development that we need. I think that the expansion of the sewer capacity would would allow for different types of office buildings, medical buildings to come into town. And I think it's also important to consider new industries entering our town. We're at kind of a pivotal point with the whole marijuana debate, and it's not a matter of whether or not it's legal anymore, because it is legal in Massachusetts. It's a matter of whether or not we want to be able to pick who we're going to do business with. I respect the fact that it's coming back before town meeting, and will absolutely follow whatever the vote is on that. But beyond that, we need to think about getting in on getting that tax base.
This is a question that Alyssa.
Christine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know I'm way down here, but
You just met the guy.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I just have the side of, I've got the side of Peter's head. He kind of blocks you, but that's okay.
sorry, Peter.
Sorry.
I'm going to sit next to her so I can hear.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
So, the economic development that I think we need in town is we need to entice people. Maybe not so much really large companies, and it'd be nice to bring in small companies, small businesses. But they got to realize that Kingston has 3 exits on Route 3. We have the T that stops right in the town. There's stuff in place for us to bring in stuff and entice, but we have to either protect the mall a little bit and add things into there. That zone right there, I think, is underutilized for certain reasons that is currently out of the town's hands. We have the ability to use some of we have land on the other side of 44 that we could utilize that is behind the Walmart and all there. I know it's not a lot of land, but it still has the ability to have economic growth over there. And then maybe even more overlay of light industrial in our commercial areas, something different that we don't realize.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I'm going to get to, this is a question a listener sent in and wanted this asked to a couple of the different boards. This listener said, drinking water, we're all very concerned about our drinking water here in Kingston and so many other towns. Apparently it comes from our wells in good condition, but by then, the time it gets to the faucets in our homes, it's brown. Manganese is the culprit, which as I understand is in and coated to our water pipes throughout the town. So when it's flushed by the fire department or for other reasons, a strong flow is pushed through the pipes, dislodging the manganese, producing the tainted water. As this is the problem, why would a new water treatment plant for many millions of dollars correct the situation? I would very much like to hear how the selectmen candidates respond. I'm going to start with Paul this time.
So what
you.
is your question? How do we get manganese out of water? Other
They would
than
say,
using it-
what do you think, why would a new water treatment plant for many millions of dollars, why would that correct the situation?
I guess how would it create? So, if we want clean water, and we already have a manganese plant over by, I think it was over by the 44 over the crossover there. The problem is we're using a lot of water in this town, not just residential, commercial too. And I think it's starting to, the stress fractures are starting to show by having some people are near the end of the lines and they're getting this brown water with the manganese in it. This is the reason why we need to slow back the residential's building, because we're now seeing the stresses of the water system itself. The manganese is there. We have to figure out a way to get it out. Now, do we want to pay $1.2 million to get a new plant to get the manganese out? Do you want clean water? I think it is a good thing, especially if everybody wants to talk about growth and more growth and more growth. So if we want to grow and try to make more money economically, or we don't want to pull back the reins on people, on more residential houses coming in, then we need the plant.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Peter Bonsick.
Well, Paul, let's see, from what I understand, we're gonna have a 2.2 water expansion, 2.2 million water expansion, and then $7 or $8 million water treatment plant. Now, we just built a $4 million water treatment plant, I think it was 2014. I'd like to see what this 2.2 million water expansion is gonna do for the water we have now, and then maybe put off the $7, $8 million treatment plant. But again, this won't affect taxes. It will affect your water bill. It could affect your water bill, okay? But it won't affect your taxes in town. So, depending on how much water you use, you know, it's gonna be how much you're actually gonna spend.
Okay, same question, Jessica.
So this new treatment plant is not going to solve the problem overall. This is one of the wells that is a big issue at the moment, and everyone deserves clean potable water. So it'll fix the problem for now for the people that are affected and getting brown water way too frequently. It absolutely has to happen. But we do have to be wise to the fact that we could have future problems down the road. We don't know when another treatment plant will be needed for one of these other wells. So yeah, a real holistic approach has to be made to kind of look at these things. But when it comes down to it, it's really not, you can't, I mean, everyone deserves clean water, so I think it has to be done.
Okay,
Can I add to that real quick? Because we're talking about
30 seconds.
All right, because we're talking about this economic growth, and one of the ideas that's been floating around is possibly up at the mall, adding, you know, more homes up there, and maybe even a hotel. If we already have a water problem now, I don't know how you think down the road we'd have more stress added onto the water system. What do you think is going to happen then?
Okay, do you want an additional 30 seconds, you other two candidates as well?
The manganese problem is not unique to Kingston. There's other communities that are having it way worse than we are. It has to do with different minerals in the soils, and that it's just something that's a problem all along the South Shore. So it's not because necessarily of overgrowth or overexpansion. Yes, we don't want to have too much growth, don't get me wrong, but I just think that it's a matter of infrastructure and making sure that our community has the clean water
Peter,
they
another
deserve.
30 seconds on manganese and
Well,
water.
for the 2.2 water expansion again, you know, they say the water department says that the water's safe to drink. But I tell you right now, I won't drink brown water. And it also dirties the laundry and everything else. So yes, everybody deserves to have good, clean water in town. Again, I'm not sure exactly what the 2.2 water expansion is gonna do. Again, we're gonna be talking about the future. Maybe we should just wait a little bit unless the water rates go up. And I'd like to hear more from the water department on that.
Okay. What I want to do now is I want to give people from the audience a chance to ask a question. Did you have a question, Dave?
Yes.
Oh, you want to go right in front of the,
One question to the selectmen, running for selectmen. How many are on the sewer line?
I'm not.
how many people?
How many
here on-
people on this board are on the sewer line?
I am on the sewer line.
So you're paying a betterment.
Yes.
You're paying betterments.
Yes.
The other two aren't.
Nope.
Oh, okay, that's all.
Yeah, but our taxes are still paying for the sewer department also. Our taxes are paying. Just the Nook isn't paying for this sewer treatment plant.
When you pay for sewage, you're paying. No one else is paying for it in the town, only those who use it.
Gotta get right on the mic. Gotta get right on the mic so you can hear.
Right.
Okay.
Those who are using this system are the only ones that are paying for it.
Okay. All right.
Point.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the audience for our candidates up here? Remember, we ask people to get right to the point, ask a question. I can't believe there's not another question with this crowd. Come on. Come on up. Come on up. Listening to a political forum here. The town is Kingston. We're in the race here for the one-year seat of 3 candidates. Good evening.
Good evening. Actually, I think the essence of the
Pat
question...
Harlow.
Thank you. You identified me.
Thank you.
So appreciative. 3 Pebble Lane, formerly Dorothy Patricia Harlow. Thank you. Anyway, I think the essence of that question was that as the water leaves the pond, for example, it's pristine. That's what we're told. But when it gets to the homes, it's not. So whatever is happening between the clean water and the very red manganese-filled water. The only thing that could account for that are the pipes, because it's not going through soil. It is going through pipes that have been here for, 20, 60, 30 years? And I'm made to understand that even though people have a problem on the South Shore, we have as much of a problem as they do, and that it has nothing to do with anything other than pipes that are coated.
Do you have a question, though, for this?
Yes. So the question is that, could you answer the question that was asked? How does it go from being pure water to not so pure water?
Okay.
There's
For
only
each
one way you can arrive.
Okay, so we ask that with each candidate. Let's
Okay,
start
that's
with
great.
Paul
Thanks.
again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure we pull all our water from wells, and I'm sure the wells are coming up with. I don't see the water coming out of the ground out of the wells, and I know these are packed gravel wells that come out of the ground, and that's where we pull our water. I don't know the exact size. It could be an 8-inch or a 10-inch main coming out, and that is a lot of flow that is coming out of the ground. That water is then filtered multiple times, and I'm sure we're not getting it all, and we're sucking from. I think we have 6 wells in town, and I think we use only about 5. I don't quote me on that, but depending where these wells are, we're going to be getting either silt or other things that make it through. I've worked with stuff with water, and I've seen some of the stuff that comes through that is even more bigger than just the silt and the brown that comes through. I do think it is a problem, and I think the only way to correct it is by helping the water department with what they need. That way you're not having this continued issue, which I'm sure is absolutely annoying for more reasons than one. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry this bell is so
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing
anemic.
over there.
That's okay. Let's go to Jessica. Same question. Same question.
My understanding is that it's not simply the pipes. In some communities on the South Shore, like Situate, there is an issue with the pipes because of the type of pipes they are. But what's happening is the well water is going through the treatment plant, and the sediment that from this manganese, which is a mineral, is settling in the treatment plant tanks. That's why when the system is flushed, we get this rush of brown water. If it was simply the pipes, we'd get a consistent flow of a certain color of water. So it has to do with the way that the actual treatment plant is, it needs to be upgraded to a treatment plant that will not allow the sediment to build out and then flush through the system. But I've been reassured by a few people in town that it's not a matter of the pipes, and we don't have the same issues that other communities are facing with the type of pipes that kind of build up in within the pipes.
Peter?
Well, on my capital planning committee, when the water department came through, I'm pretty sure they said like the tanks that we have that store the water. Yes, we have wells, they go up there, but that's where the
Manganese?
manganese, thank you, I've had a hard time saying that, actually builds up, and they actually have to clean the tanks out also. And if you'll be looking at the some of the articles that may be coming through that the money to be spent to paint them and also clean them. To paint the inside, they have to drain all the water, and that's when they can get the built-up out.
Okay. Want to move on to our lightning round now? Is there one more person from the audience who want to come on up?
Well, I'm a water commissioner. I can certainly fix some of
You can, this is the time to ask a question, not time to have a debate. Does anybody have a specific question? Come on up, all right.
Thank you.
That'll be it, all right.
John Michael Font, 16 May Avenue. I would like to ask the three candidates what your positions are and how you feel about the issue of government transparency. I know that there's been some issues in town recently where there have been a number of boards who have either kept incomplete minutes or have kept no minutes at all, and in some cases for months on end. So I would like to hear a little bit from the candidates about how you feel about that issue of government transparency and how you see the Board of Selectmen having a role in that issue, and what types of solutions you would perhaps propose to that problem, considering the role that you perceive the Board
Okay.
of Selectmen to have. Thank you.
And let's start with Jessica this time.
Sure. I've always been a big advocate for transparency. I was the sole dissenting vote on the Capital Planning Committee's vote to not televise our meetings. I was for televising the meetings of Capital Planning, and I advocated for that well before it even came to vote. I think that when we are in a political office or in a government office, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and that it becomes a matter of, it's not just transparency, but it's about accessibility. I think that everyone in town should have accessibility to our government and its operations, and all of our business should be done in a fully transparent way.
Okay, let's go to Peter next. Same question, yes, you.
Okay, I'm not going to go into debate about that, but the transparency is more than just having minutes up on a website. We don't have much transparency, and I've said this to Joshua Warren, that until our Board of Selectmen can show full transparency, then that's when we're going to show. We already show transparency with the Capital Planning Committee, okay? Having it televised is just convenient for other people, all right? In the 7 years I've been on there, I've had one resident show up, and that was in the last couple of meetings, that show up to actually sit in on the meetings. So it's not a lack of transparency that the capital planning has ever had. We don't have lack of transparency. We have it. But I want to see more, and I will bring a lot more transparency to the town, to the residents of the town that deserve it if I get elected.
Okay, same question, Paul.
I believe in full transparency. Being on the zoning board for 13 years and being chairman now, we try to keep all our minutes online. We are on live, all the time. You've been in front of us before, I believe in it, not for another reason. When things go wrong and we remove a whole board and we start fresh, it's good to have the transparency there to see what either problems are there that we can fix, or problems that have arisen from things that have happened in the past that we can catch. And it has happened before on my board where we couldn't figure out what happened, and we could go through the minutes and there was some transparency there, enough where we could piece together the problems. But without it, you're just going to recreate the problems that you didn't know you were basically stepping upon over and over. But I'm for it.
Okay, thank you. We've got time for one more question from the audience. One more person want to come up? Okay, then you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to our lightning round. And this is lightning. And this is where we ask the candidates a question. This is my favorite part of all these forums because no rambling, no long yapping, no talking. It's yes or no with no explanation or one or two sentences tops. This is very difficult for anyone running for office. That's just my comment. That's my editorial comment here for the night. But we're going to start with Kathy Gallerani. Lightning round question for our candidates.
When you go to the microphone at town meeting, how much time should you be allowed to talk?
Let's start with you, Peter.
Well, that's not a yes or no answer.
There you go. Okay, you get 2 sentences.
As much time as it takes you just to ask your question.
Okay, same question. Jessica.
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay. Paul?
As much time as needed, as long as you are forthright with the question.
Okay. Charlie?
Give me 3 news sources that you use. Paul?
Say that again?
3 news sources.
News sources. Ooh. Let's see, I watch the news almost all day. It's always on the background, so I got
3 news sources, no rambling. Come on.
Channel 7, 89.7, and every now and then 90.9.
Okay, Jessica, same question.
WBUR, Kingston Reporter, and NBC News.
Okay, same question. Peter Bonsick.
Online at WATD.
Thank you.
Also the Wicked Local, and then a lot of it's on the internet, I read.
Okay. County government, stay or go? Peter Bonsack,
Stay.
yes, stay?
Stay.
Stay?
Question, I couldn't hear you on
County government, stay or go?
Stay.
Okay. Any other lightning round questions? All right, we're going to get to our final comments tonight. Remember, keep them to a minute. We're going to start with you, Paul, because I missed you a couple of times during tonight. 1 minute, your closing comments here for the Board of Selectmen candidacy.
So once again, my name is Paul Don. I'm running for the open seat left behind by Mrs. Lenatra. If voted in, I'm hoping to keep the town to regulate its residential growth and maybe work harder on trying to find more economical ways to streamline the budget that we have and try to entice more maybe larger businesses, not great, grand, huge businesses that might cripple the town, but businesses that can help and utilize what we already have here, having the 3 exits on Route 3, having the T that stops right there over by, our huge commercial area over there, which is just undervalued and underused. And that's all I have. I hope, please vote.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Now let's go to Jessica.
Kingston needs leaders who can bring people together, who can collaborate and listen and try and seek out the advice of people who might not see eye to eye with them on everything. We need leaders who don't try and poke holes. They look for solutions. They don't look for problems. We need to try and build a future for Kingston that's woven from the ideas of many and not just the ideologies of a few vocal people. I would love the opportunity to serve this community as your leader. This community has been great to me and to my family. It's a place where I want to grow old, and I want my kids to come back and live it someday. And I want everyone in this community to be able to stay here and to be able to grow with it. There's a lot of change on the horizon, and change is scary. But we really need to work together and unite and not just try and divide and poke holes. And a future for Kingston is going to be beautiful.
Thank you, Jessica. Peter Bonsack, your closing statement.
The town, we're in very serious trouble. We're looking at a $50 million budget. In 6 years, it's gone up $10 million. Okay, in 6 years, you got the same people, almost the same people. As we go forward, it's not getting better. We have people on the board from 1 year to almost 14 years, and it's not getting better. It's just costing us more money, and we need to change that. We need more people, I hate to say it, to speak out more. I have no problem. When I've run for election quite a few times, and they've asked me, "You haven't got voted in. Why?" Why? Because not only I'm fighting the candidate, I'm fighting the selectmen on the board who don't want me on there. I will speak up for the residents. I will represent the residents the way they should be. I'm not going to keep anything from you. I'm not going to be a selectman that's going to say one thing to a group of people and then say totally different to another group of people. We have problems. We need to change up the board, and with the right 2 people that can come on, we can do it.
Thank you very much. Again, those are the 3 candidates for the 1-year seat: Peter Bonsack, Jessica Kramer, Paul Dolan. Thanks so much for coming up here.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. It's good. It's tough to run for office. Now thank you very much. Let's have thanks, Paul. Let's have the next 2 candidates come up here for the other seat. Elaine Fiore, Sue Munford. It's a great political candidates. Always have some good
Christine,
questions.
that bell is pathetic.
I'm sorry.
So why don't,
Fix it.
instead of trying to ring the bell, why don't you just tap me on top of the head and I'll say ring-a-ding?
Have a seat. We've got the next 2 candidates up here tonight. This is for the other seat on the Board of Selectmen. This is for 3 years. We've got the incumbent Elaine Fiore, and we have Susan Munford, also former selectman, up here tonight. So we're going to have the same format as we use every time, and that's starting with a 1-minute opening statement, and then round of questions from the press, a chance for the audience to ask a few questions, and then lightning round and closing comments. So let's begin tonight with Elaine Fiore. Your opening statement, please.
Good evening. It has been my privilege to serve you as a member of the Kingston Board of Selectmen. I have always tried to conduct myself in a professional and positive manner. I am well aware that my conduct is a reflection of the town and its residents. In July, I gave a presentation to members of the Governor's Cabinet, which included a summary of the economic opportunities and the challenges facing Kingston. We made clear our need for technical assistance and financial support from the Commonwealth. As a result of that meeting, we secured a $3 million MassWorks grant. This morning, I met with the owner of Kingston Collections. We candidly discussed their $40 million project, the challenges we share, and possible resolutions to those challenges. Leadership is grounded in truth. It requires experience, the ability to work through challenges, respect for others, workable relationships, and facts. If re-elected, I will continue to do my homework, conduct myself professionally, and work collaboratively with all stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Elaine Fiore, her opening statement. Now we're going to go to Susan Munford, your opening statement.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, WATD. Thank you, Kingston Democratic Town Committee. Thank you, residents who've come out and residents who are listening at home. This is an important election. Right now, the state of Kingston, we are spending too much money, and we need to start looking at how we spend money. It's so easy to say economic development and cut here and look at what we're doing and how we're spending it, but we really need to cut the spending that we're doing now. We can do it. The town of Hanover just cut $1.5 million from their budget. They didn't cut services and they didn't cut personnel. We can do it within every single department. I've been on FinCom for a year now. We get to see the budgets and it's doable. What we need is a board of selectmen that together, all 5 people, charge the town administrator to work with the department heads who are the managers of each department and each budget to cut appropriately their budgets where it can be done, and I'm telling you right now, it can be done.
Thank you. That was the opening statement of Susan Munford. We're going to go to our questions now. Kathy Gallerani from Wicked Local, questions for the candidates.
Susan, while you have served on the Finance Committee, what have you learned besides that you can bring to the position of selectman now?
I learned that we spend too much money in the town of Kingston, and we need the leadership to set the bar and to guide the ship, to tell the captain of the ship where we need financially to go forward. That's what we need. It's not happening right now.
Are there particular areas that you can think of, just off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I can look at the police department's budget. We have been paying for 6 sergeants for 3 years, and we've only had 4 sergeants for 2 years. That's $150,000 right there. Where is that money? That's money that shouldn't have been budgeted. And here we are going into another fiscal year with 6 sergeants, and there are only 4. We didn't have acting sergeants. Only 1/4 of that was used in overtime. That's looking at one item in one budget. We can do it in every single department. That's not decreasing anything.
And Elaine, do you see areas of the budget that you think? I guess you don't, because you support it.
This particular budget, like last year and the year before that, is as tight as we can get it without reducing services, without laying off staff. We look at automation. We have also, this past year or so, done job consolidation. 1 staff person working for 2 departments. We are trying everything possible to not cut services. And that's what I'm hearing from you. I want the services I have today, so we're looking at other alternatives as well as automation. It's not expenses. It's when over 50% of the budget is schools, and those schools, you want the services. You want your kids to be educated. That's what the budget is. I mean, another 20% of the budget is public safety, police, fire, all of that. You know, nobody wants those services cut. I mean, I'd gladly sit down, and I have with many of you, to see what your needs are, and I'm doing what you've been asking me to do.
Okay. Charlie?
The town has 6 capital projects proposed currently. The KES roof, a wastewater upgrade, the police station, the library upgrade, and as we discussed earlier, the new water treatment plant. Can you prioritize those, and would you recommend cutting any of them? Elaine?
I hope I got them all. Water is definitely top on the list because of just everybody's being affected by it in certain areas, and I agree, everybody needs clean water. So water would be the first one. The second one is, to me, the roof, KES roof, and that's because we're getting a grant for that. The state is willing to share that expense with us, and they're coming out in the next week or so to go through the project aspect. The third one to me is the wastewater treatment plant, because that is our, what's gonna generate revenue for this town. If everybody wants to keep the services where they are, the only other way to do it is to get revenue. As it's 8, 9, and 10, we have so many opportunities for that to happen.
Police station and library.
Police station, again, I look at that as a safety component for our police officers. Everybody deserves to work in a building that isn't falling down around them. Only because there has to be a last, it would be the library.
Okay, thanks. Same question.
Sue, of those 6, could you prioritize them, and would you have one or more drop off the list?
Water first, schools second. I'm sorry. Police station,
Library and water plant.
water plant, library. I'm sorry, library and sewer. I would cut the sewer if I could.
Okay, thank you.
Last year when we had this, when we did this forum last year, one of the big issues that came up was brought up several times, were the problem of people leaving the employ of the town of Kingston for various reasons. And it seemed like there were some pretty heated emotions, as I remember. Has anything changed in the past year with people who are employed by the town of Kingston leaving? Elaine?
The people who have left in the past, most of them left because of retirements. They were all very experienced and seasoned employees, so they left to retire. Some of them have actually come back and have worked through the senior work-off program or worked part-time on an as-needed basis for the town. Those that didn't leave because of retirements went on to other opportunities in other towns. I think we have a pretty stable workforce, but it is aging, and turnaround is going to be happening. And we have taken opportunities not to hire staff when someone has left. This is where the job consolidation came into play. When people left, we looked at what was needed and have tried to work with less staff as well.
Okay. So you spoke about this pretty intently, as I remember the last time, about people leaving the town. How do you feel about that this year, a year later?
I don't know about people leaving the town now, but I do know that morale is low. So without figures, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you, but were exit interviews done? Did we follow up? Why are they? Because not everybody was a retirement, and not everybody was to go find other work. But if morale is, if the job is bad, they're gonna go elsewhere.
Kathy Gallerani, question for the candidates?
The last group, we talked about economic development. What ratio of residents to business tax revenue is ideal for Kingston, and how do you reach that revenue?
Let's start with Sue.
Ratio.
I would say 60-40, and I would base that on what you have to do to commit to the commercial industries, the businesses. We have to deal with infrastructure. We have to keep the roads in good condition. We have to have the water, the existing sewer that we have. So there's a cost to get that money back. So the balance is, if we went too much for commercial, then it would be more detrimental. It would cost us more to get that. So I think the max would be 40%.
Elaine? Shirley?
Elaine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing that again.
I actually like the 80-20 rule. If we had 80% business and 20% residential, the infrastructure does need to be upgraded. And it's been thrown out tonight, a $2 million water expansion. It's not a water expansion. It's a project that's, we're looking for funding from the state to up in Exit 8. They have low water pressure up there. That, the project is being discussed to give them high pressure water so that whole area can be developed again. I go with 80-20 for commercial, and it's not going to cost us that much to make this happen. We need improved infrastructure. Once it's there, they will come.
Charles?
You said Exit 8, but you didn't say whether deals are great.
And they are.
Town meeting will once again consider a prohibition of marijuana retails. Do you support it, yes or no? Elaine?
I do not support a prohibition, no. Because in that zoning as well comes cultivation, in addition to retail stores. So I don't support banning it.
Sue?
Sue?
I don't support the prohibition because the businesses are not knocking down our doors. This is an opportunity that we have, if we regulate it, that we can get income to address other issues that we have.
Christine, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I have several, and I want to get to the question that I asked the other candidates running for selectmen. Again, this is what I got more emails about than anything before tonight, and that is the water treatment plant. So in your opinion, would a new water treatment plant for many millions of dollars correct the manganese situation? Same question I asked the other candidates. Let's start with you, Elaine.
I will admit when I don't know something, and I do know that our water commissioners and the water department have worked very hard on this issue, and I would trust their judgment on the manganese plant. The one they had done before solved that problem. The expectation is that this one would solve today's immediate problem as well.
Sue?
I can only go by the past. I'm on that water line. I don't have brown water. It's not an issue. So I would only hope, with the advice of the water commissioners, that treating the well would give the people who deserve clean water, clean water.
Okay. Kathy Gallerani, questions for the candidates?
If you could submit an article for town meeting, what changes to town meeting would you make?
Why don't we start with, let's start with Sue.
A change to town meeting or any article I want.
To change the town meeting process.
I have no problem with the current town meeting. It's the oldest, purest form of democracy that we have. Everyone in that building is part of the legislative body, and they should be heard, no matter how long it takes. That's my opinion. I said it at another candidate tonight. I'm that one voice that says, when there's a motion to move the question, if one person is standing, I say no, because somebody needs to be heard. And like Jess Kramer said, you never know what somebody's going to say, and it could change your view, your information, and on many times on town meeting floor, it has happened. So everybody should have that opportunity.
Elaine?
I actually think we have the processes in place to make it happen already. I just think that they need to be adhered to as far as new information. That is the key to everything. If something's been discussed over and over again, end of that conversation for that particular individual. We have the tools in place, we just need to enforce them.
Okay, let's follow up with the question I asked the other three. There are three proposals to change town meeting. Ballot, decorum, and no reconsideration. How do you feel on each of those, Sue?
I like the idea of the ballot. Having been at the town meeting for more than 20 years, I've seen intimidation. I've seen people even looking and glaring at somebody the way they vote. I've been a victim of it. I don't think that's a fair part of it. And we are family, we're friends, we're neighbors, and it is, well, it's typical that, hey, how come you did that? And it could be unjust, but it could be seen as intimidating. Debate it on the town floor, put it on the ballot, you'll get more people, and you'll avoid the intimidation part of it, and people can purely vote their own conscience without having it going back.
What about decorum and reconsideration?
Don't change decorum, don't change reconsideration.
Elaine?
I support no reconsideration. I think it's a tool that's not needed in this day and age. Decorum, I agree we should be following the processes and the rules that are in place better than they have been in the past. The ballot question, I totally disagree with that approach. Debate and conversation happens at town meeting. Unless, if we're having a ballot question the next day or the next week, what that does is opens up the opportunity for social media to create havoc and change or put doubt in people's minds who don't have the opportunity to ask that question. Typically, if people are confused about something, they say no. So have the debate that night. All the people with all the answers you need are at that meeting to give you the information you need to make an educated decision one way or another. Delaying it for another week only gives the opportunity for incorrect information to get out there, and that's not fair to either side.
Okay. Elaine, you're the incumbent in this race, and Sue, you've been on this board before and you're running again. What's driving you to want to stay on this board, Elaine?
We have so many exciting things that are bursting to happen. Again, economic development is not a buzzword. It is going to be a reality in Kingston with the pieces that we've got in place. We've got a Mass Works grant with economic development bill, a bond bill. We're working on getting the revenue to maintain the services we have. If I want to continue through and make it all happen. I've been doing this for 1.5 years with economic development, meeting with all the key players at the State House, representatives, senators. We're there. We need a positive vote at town meeting to get us over the hurdle. I just want to be able to get us to where we need to be together.
Okay, Sue, why do you want to come back into the spotlight here on this board?
I don't consider it spotlight. I think it's serving the residents. I think it's serving the community. I think it's having an ear, listening to the people, respecting them, and representing them. And I think there's a large section that's not being listened to, and that's what I will bring to the board.
Okay, let's get some questions now from the audience. Do we have some folks that want to ask some questions? Dave? Okay, remember, when you come up to step, make sure you get right in front of the microphone so everybody can hear.
This is to Miss Muffet. May I ask a question? Are you suing the town at the present time?
I am not suing the town at the present time.
You are not.
I do not have a lawsuit against the town of Kingston.
Did you sue the town because you lost your job?
I do not have a lawsuit against the town.
You
That
do
is
not
an
have-
employment action.
How much did it cost, basically? You might have a figure. How much does it cost?
Me? My attorney cost me $50,000.
How much did it cost the town?
How much did it cost the town, Dave?
About $300,000?
Okay, then it was $300,000.
Oh, $300,000.
Maybe I should give them the card to my attorney.
Do you really think this is a vendetta?
How many?
No, I think it's-
This is not a back and forth. If you've got a question, ask a question. Okay?
Yes.
This is not a back and forth debate. So, Jen, just wrap this up.
Hey, you want me to describe myself? I'm asking, Sue, the town spent $300,000 over your suit.
It's not a suit.
Whatever. He spent over $300,000 on it.
Yes.
And is this a vendetta?
No, it's me trying to get my job back. This is the
Then
employment
it's a
process.
vendetta.
I'm sorry?
That would be a vendetta.
No, it's a due process right that I have that I've exercised.
Well, if you're going...
Okay, you've asked a question. Do you have a question for the other candidate? Do you have a question for Elaine? Okay. Any other questions? Peter Bonsack?
I'm going to follow up on Dave's question. So do you feel you had the right to be able to keep your job and be able to fight for it?
Everyone that's covered by a union has that right. There is a due process, and that's what I'm exercising. I'm in arbitration right now.
Okay, so one more thing, okay?
Okay.
You were supposed to get your decision made sometime middle March, and for some strange reason, it got moved to April 30th, 3 days after the election.
It did.
Okay, so if you're found to be in the right, so that's $300,000 the town wasted for being wrong.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Okay. Do you have a question for Elaine?
Yes, Elaine. What do you what is your position on the involvement the chair should have with the town as your position of chair? Any other town that I've ever gone to or been in is we have a town administrator that oversees the operation of the town, and all the selectmen, he reports to all the selectmen. Do you feel your involvement as the town that you've been in, so involved in everything, that that's part of your job as a selectman?
I'm as involved as the citizens ask me to be. I'm involved as the department heads involve me. So do I think I should be as involved as I am? Yes, because I'm being asked to partake in different things and be involved in different things. So, yes, I do
Okay. We have other questions from the audience here? Come on up.
Yes.
Oh, come on up.
Dennis Randall. I broke a promise to myself. I was going to ask a question.
You couldn't help it.
I've noticed in town politics that it's become increasingly personal and increasingly angry. And I'm making a statement of what I'm going to follow up with a question.
Okay.
Is how do we change the personal and the anger to something that's a little bit more progressive, a little bit more visionary?
Okay. Is that the question for both the
Yes.
candidates? Let's
We'll
start
start
with
with-
Elaine.
I conduct myself that way anyway. I may disagree with someone, but I'm very respectful about it. So how do I change it? I think it's a culture that needs to be changed, and I can only lead by example and continue to be respectful and professional in all my actions as a selectman.
Same question, Sue?
I agree, leading from the front. Being responsible for myself and my actions, and maybe it'll catch on.
Thank you.
Okay,
Anger
thank
is a useful servant and a lousy master.
Thank you. The water commissioner's been dying to come up here. Come on down. Here we go. Listening to a political forum here, the town of Kingston. This is for the other seat for selectmen. This is the 3-year seat. Got Elaine Fiore up here and Susan Munford. Now, questions from our audience? The patient water commissioner.
Okay, this isn't a water commissioner's question, so I'm sorry.
It's okay.
My question, though, is earlier, Sue, you mentioned that you are on the Finance Committee and that you've looked at budgets and you know lots of places where you can cut money in budgets. I've been constructing the water commissioner's budget for over 20 years, and that shocked me to hear that because we spend an awful lot of time going over that budget.
I know you do, I know you do.
We have a fine-tooth comb and a sharp pencil, and my assumption is that the library does too, and that the sewer commissioners do too. And nobody in positions that we're in are interested in trying to spend the townspeople's money. We're interested in providing the services that townspeople expect,
Do you have a question?
and that costs money. Well, the question is, where do you think you can cut money from my
Okay,
budget?
all right. Sue?
Well, I don't specifically remember yours, but I know there was a $400,000 difference between FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, and that's what we went through during the budget season, and it was there.
Okay. Same question for Elaine?
Same question for Elaine.
Okay, I think we're as lean as we can be without cutting services. The $400,000 difference between the selectmen's budget and the finance committee's budget is because we got better numbers as the process went along. We submitted our budget to the finance committee in December. And health insurance went down $100,000. We had, we took some items out of the budget and are looking to pay for one-time expenses through free cash at town meeting. Example of that is the stormwater drainage permitting. That's a 5-year process. We put it in the operating budget because it was going to be for 5 years. We took it out, we're going to pay for the first year in free cash. So that's $175,000 right there. So I can name every single one of them, but the gist is, we put the budget together in December, we had more information, the more we went into the budget season, and we're in agreement now with the finance committee. We're submitting one number to the town.
Okay, let's get one more question from the audience tonight. Right here. Okay, come on up.
Hi, Bill Marabito, 303 Elm Street. Last year, annual town meeting dissolved on day 4, Article 28. 16 of the articles were not heard. Do you think that's a problem? And if you do, what would you suggest we do to prevent that from happening again?
Okay, let's start with Elaine, and then we'll go to Sue.
Yes, it's definitely a problem. Everybody's time is precious nowadays. What we've done to try to at least address that problem is this year, the town warrant was posted 5 weeks before town meeting. That has never been heard of before. Typically, it's 2 weeks. We posted it 5 weeks. We have all the information out there. We have had selectmen's meetings that we've gone over specific articles to help to get people on board, educate them, invite them to come and ask their questions to us so we can get as much information out there as possible. So when town meeting comes, a debate can happen and, we can go from there, but it's trying to get as much information out as possible, and we have done that this year, and I'm very proud of the efforts of the whole board of making that happen, as well as our town administrator.
Okay, same question, Sue?
Getting the information out early is important. Another possible, yes, it is a problem. It's absolutely a problem that people can't make all the meetings. Yes, we have a lot of meetings, but people have lives. People have families. Everybody understands that. Maybe what we could do is get the debate before town meeting. Get a video up for the individual who wants to propose an article, and get the debate going at that level before we even walk in the door. So most of the questions are addressed. So at town meeting, on town meeting floor, there would only be a small group that, wait, there's one more. If there's some way that we could do that. I know that for several years we've been talking about improving town meeting. I was on one of those committees years back, and it's very difficult to get everybody in today's day and age together for 5 days, 6 days. We have to start thinking before it even gets to town meeting.
Okay, let's go to lightning round questions, and then we'll go to final statements. No, that was the last question, because remember we said one more question, so that was it. So we got a full house tonight, want to keep it moving. Is anybody else warm in here? I feel like are we trying to sweat the candidates out here? If we could maybe open another window. Thank you. It is warm. Wow, I love this. You just make a suggestion, they all jump up.
They all jumped.
Thank you. Why, thank you. I'm a tea drinker, but I appreciate that. Okay, thank you. Okay, because thinking, wow, it is getting warm in here.
Oh, that's
I was
instant
waiting.
relief. No,
I'm ready to admit to anything at this point. It's so warm. Okay, let's go to the lightning round questions then. Kathy Galleroni. Lightning round questions. And remember, these answers are either yes or no, or 1 or 2 sentences tops. Kathy, lightning round questions for the candidates.
Is it important that Kingston be part of the 400th commemoration?
2 sentences. Is it important that Kingston be part of the 400th commemoration? Sue?
Capital Y-E-S.
Okay. Elaine?
Yes, and there's been an ad hoc resident committee put together to make that happen.
Charlie?
Name your 3 most frequent sources of news.
Let's start with Elaine.
Elaine.
WATD.
Oh, you.
Kingston Reporter and PAC TV, because it's all local.
Okay.
It's all
Sue?
local.
In the morning, I listen to My Fox Boston in the car, ATD, and Wicked Local. And then I watch, well, that would be a fourth.
Okay. Question I ask at every one of these, and I know that I'm going to have some angry texts from Dan Pilata, but that's okay. Plymouth County government, stay or go for the town of Kingston? Stay or go?
Go.
Okay.
Stay.
Elaine, stay. All right. Any other lightning round questions? Let's go to our closing statements. Then we started with you, Elaine, to begin. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's switch it around. Let's end then with Sue first, and then Elaine.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to be heard tonight. This is a wonderful venue that you can ask questions and meet us all. A lot of you already know me. I won't even get into that. I want to be involved in the government of Kingston. I want to be involved in the in moving forward with the town of Kingston. And we have bumpy roads ahead, and we need to make difficult decisions, and I want to be part of that.
Thank you. That was Susan Munford. Elaine Fiore.
Thank you for tonight. Elections have consequences. This is a very important time for Kingston. In 1995, our commercial property tax base was 24.2%. Today, it is 12%. That has resulted in a significant strain on our residential taxpayers. We need to rebuild our local economy, create jobs for our citizens, and minimize the property taxes on our homes. We have the plan in place and the team on board to meet those goals. Success will require strong leadership, established relationships, confidence in government, and open conversations between you and your elected officials. I'm excited about Kingston's future. I expect a lot of myself, and you should as well. I've been privileged to serve on the Board of Selectmen for 6 years, and I would be honored to have your support once again. Please get out to vote on April 27th and bring a friend, because elections have consequences. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've been listening to the 2 candidates running for the 3-year seat for the Board of Selectmen, the incumbent Elaine Fiore and Sue Munford. We appreciate you coming up here. Thanks so much. As we are following the ballot, now we're going to have the race for assessor. We've got the 3 candidates here. We've got John Michael Fonce, Michael Martin, and Bradford Randall. Come on up here. Sit down, get comfortable, and we will start asking some questions. And it does feel cooler with those windows open. Have a seat. Sit down.
I have one.
Thank you. You guys look like a law firm. Very nice.
I get the Peter.
There you go. Yes,
No.
you do. Okay, everybody comfortable here? All right.
Are we supposed to be?
No.
We turned down the heat a little bit, though, which is great. Thank you. Let's start with opening statements, and let's start at the far end there. Say your name, and you've got 1 minute to make a comment, and I believe that's Michael Martin.
Good evening. My name's Michael Martin, and I proudly served in the Army National Guard, and I used to be a youth group counselor. Presently, I'm a certified residential real estate appraiser. I'm an attorney, and I'm the only one that'll be speaking to you tonight that has a background in residential real estate. I'm certified as an expert before the courts. I've testified in open court and valuation, and I have the ability to work with existing board members while pointing out things that need to be done, but coming it from a background and experience of knowing what real estate is, knowing what valuation is, and knowing how to help them without an axe to grind with anybody on any board. And if I'm elected, I'll do my best to make sure both residences and the town's interests are taken care of by providing fair and accurate valuations. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Michael Martin. Now we're going to move over to John Michael Fonts.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to just say thank you for everyone for being here. I think that what makes Kingston great is the passion that all the people have for being involved in local government and making a difference and informing yourselves. So I think that's fantastic. My name is John Michael Fonts. I've lived in Kingston my entire life. I have 3 generations here. My 2 young boys live with my wife and I of 13 years, and my parents also live in town who are retirees. My professional background is that I run my own business as an interpreter and translator. I am actually fluent in 3 languages, self-taught in Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese. I've always been a very fast learner and been able to pick things up, and I picked up 2 foreign languages on my own with no formal training whatsoever. So I'm very confident that if elected to this board, I'll be able to hit the ground running and learn everything that needs to be learned and do the right thing. I'm very excited to be up here. I think that regardless win, loss, or draw, it's a great experience, and I'm happy to be before the people of Kingston. I hope that I can get your vote, please.
Okay, thank you. That's John Michael Fonts. Now Bradford Randall.
Very nice. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've lived here in Kingston most of my life. I come from a hardworking family, and we didn't always know how we were going to pay our mortgage. I know what it looks like in Kingston when you have trouble paying the bills, and that's one of the many reasons that I'm running for this office, is to continue the good work of the Assessor's Department, which has made great strides in the past year by taxing personal property of small businesses and by taxing second homeowners on their personal property. And now what that does is that reduces the upward pressure that has been on our residential tax base. That's very important. I've said many times, and I know Mr. Fonts has heard me say this at town meeting, that we need to keep the town affordable. And so I believe that a vote for me would be a vote to keep the town affordable and a vote for moderation on the Assessors Board, which is a very crucial board in the town of Kingston.
Thank you very much, Bradford Randall, your opening statements. Now we're going to get questions for the candidates. Let's begin with Kathy Gallerani from Wicked Local.
I think we've heard Mr. Martin's answer. Maybe he wants to answer again, but what are your qualifications for the position?
Well, graduate of University of Massachusetts, graduate of Suffolk University School of Law. I graduated in the evening division while working full-time as a residential real estate appraiser, owning my own residential real estate appraisal company while I went to law school. Graduated with honors. I've been a national economic advisor, training Chase and Citizens Bank, where I was flown out to their lending institutions to teach their people about valuation and how it corresponds with appraisal and valuations. And I've served as a mediator in the court system, so I bring a vast experience in not only real estate and valuation, but how to bring parties together with the mediation in that respect.
Okay, let's move right down the line here. Same question, John Michael Fonts.
So throughout a lot of the work that I've done over the years in interpretation and translation, I've dealt with a great number of diplomats and government heads and in different, not only departments and sectors of our own government, but also with foreign governments. So I've had the unique opportunity to participate in and observe how different styles of government operate and how different approaches are maybe more or less effective. I've also gotten a great deal of input from people from all over the world in terms of different experiences that they've had with their governments. In terms of what I would bring to the table for Kingston, I would argue that within Town Hall, we have a number of people that already possess a great deal of credentials and certifications and all that good stuff. But what we're lacking in Kingston is someone who's willing to step up and be a leader and call a spade a spade. We have people that have been trained and have all the professional boxes checked off, if you will, but don't necessarily have the courage to stand up and say and do what's right. And that's what I would bring to the table.
Okay.
We've had a lot of experience in the assessing department over the years, but it hasn't stopped the assessing department from having its issues. My qualifications are not as an appraiser. However, I am a communicator. I've spent my life as a communicator, and I think that's very crucial in Kingston. As the former editor of Weymouth News and Braintree Forum, I was tasked with breaking down complex tax stories and making them digestible to the public. I know last year you asked, Christine, that they should have, who wanted to have outreach meetings with the community? And both people up here said that they did want to have outreach meetings. They have not happened. I'm very interested in seeing that happen. I think my experience as a communicator lends itself well to that.
Okay, thank you. Charles Mathewson, question for the candidates.
Just to put a finer point on this, Mr. Martin has said he has experience and no axe to grind. He said it tonight, he said it elsewhere. So, Bradford, please address in some more detail your lack of experience.
You know, I knew you would do this to me, Charlie.
I've known you all your life, Bradford.
Yeah. Well, my lack of experience address that?
Yeah.
No. I'd like to address what I can bring to the board. So as someone who is dedicated in attending town meeting, I believe that I know the residents of Kingston. I know all the faces in this room, or most of them, and I've known you most of my life. If you have a problem, I'm going to be that compassionate ear that you can bring that problem to. I know what residents of Kingston go through. I know what they struggle with, and I know this town's expensive. I'm a very compassionate person. I have a big heart for this town, and I love this community, and I will make sure that on the Board of Assessors, that I am, your voice.
John Michael, please address your axe grinding.
Oh, that was my axe grinding?
I
I didn't realize that was
so.
directed towards me.
Yeah.
I don't think there is any axe to grind. I mean, if you really wanted to push on there's an axe to grind, I mean, I think that what I stand for is speaking up for the people. So, as I've stated many times, I have all sorts of experience with a number of government agencies, from the U.S. Army to the Department of Justice to the State Department. I work hand in hand with the government all the time. So I don't have an axe to grind with any government. What I have an issue with is if I see the people either being mistreated or not receiving the service that I feel the people deserve, then I'm going to speak up and stand up against that and say what I feel is right and do what I think is right for the people. So, I mean, if that's an axe to grind, being part of the government but being for the people, then I guess if that's what you want to call it. It's news to me.
Well, I have an axe to grind with Charlie now.
That makes two of us.
I would say still have an axe to grind. Michael?
If I may.
Still stand by the statement that you've made several times?
Oh, absolutely. It was from a posting of John Michael Fonts himself, posted on March 30th to the website, where he posted his disagreement with the Board of Assessors and how he didn't agree with their methodology. In fact, in the candidates' night the other night, he answered in a yes-no question that he would not have any valuation done via satellite. Yes, in his own complaint that he posted to Facebook, he was arguing that he disagreed with the assessor for not using satellite when it benefited him. So when I sit there and say, to me, that's one of two things. That's either inconsistency of thought or it's hypocrisy. One way or the other, it speaks for itself in that respect. So, yes, I would call that an axe to grind with the board.
Follow-up, Charlie?
And you've already talked about experience.
Oh, I was in the Army, too, so I didn't need him to communicate with me there.
Okay, thank you.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
Thank you. So I would just like to clarify that my issue with the use of satellite imagery was not that I thought it was okay if it benefited me and not okay if it didn't. My position on that was that we have issues with the Board of Assessors where they use certain methods and certain tools to add structures to people's properties, and in many cases, structures that don't exist. Per an admission from a previous assessor, it was admitted on the record at a meeting that he was aware that those tactics are used in the industry in order to force entry into people's homes. So my position was that I would propose policy, if elected to the board, that any methods or tools that are deemed to be satisfactory or sufficient or whatever you want to call it for the board or the office to make changes to a property card, those same tools and methods should also be acceptable and viable for the people to use to refute said changes. That was my position. It has nothing to do with benefits or not benefits. It has to do with fairness between what the government can do and what the people can do. Thank you.
Okay, that's a good, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was my question for this board, and I wanted to start with you. I did see the posting where you said, John Michael, you mentioned that hearing about adding false structures to property cards so that assessors could make their way into properties or suffer the penalties of additional taxes. Do you personally know anyone in the town of Kingston that this has happened to on their valuation, with false structures put on their property cards?
Yes, I do. I don't know the gentleman's name, but he came into an assessor's meeting, and he brought up the fact that 800, I believe the number was 800 square feet of living space had been added to his property. Per my memory, the gentleman had said that he had been living in the house for a number of years with his wife, and he said that no changes had been made to the property, and all of a sudden, from one year to the next, a significant amount of square footage of living space was added to his property.
So it was just the one example then. I
Well,
want to
that's
ask.
one that I can think of. I mean, I'm sure there are
Let me
plenty of
ask
others in
the
town.
other two candidates, same question. Do you know personally of anybody in the town who's had false structures put on their property card?
No, and quite frankly, having appraised for over 20 years, I think it's utter lunacy to think that there's a conspiracy theory to add properties to force their way into your homes. People have jobs. They like to keep their jobs. They don't keep their jobs if they do dishonest things and patently lie to get into your home. The fact is that when an assessor asks to gain entrance, you have the right to say no. If you don't, then the valuation will not be as accurate if you go in or not. But to sit there and suggest that people are out to get you when you look at a per capita dollar, what you could incrementally raise for the price of a shed and risk one's employment to add $30 onto somebody's residential bill is, quite frankly, kind of aluminum hat theory to me.
Okay, Bradford Randall, do you know anybody who has personally had that happen?
Right. First of all, yes, I do, to vouch for Mr. Font.
Same person
I've met
he's
that
talking about?
individual.
Okay.
Right. And just to add something, we're all putting ourselves out here, and it's not easy to run for office. You put yourself at the center of attention. I would appreciate it if the candidates in this race could focus on their own races and what they'll bring to the board rather than tearing others down.
But I just want to ask personally, the question I asked, you know personally that one person who said that. Anybody else who's had the false structures put on their property card?
I haven't known anyone other than that one individual.
Okay.
I wouldn't doubt that it's happened.
Okay. Question.
Could I follow up?
You want to do a quick, okay,
possible, very
30
quickly?
seconds.
So just to some of the comments from Mr. Martin regarding conspiracy theory, I would just like to again reemphasize that that was a statement made by the previous assessor on the record at a meeting.
Okay.
And also regarding to the statement that people probably wouldn't do that because they would lose their job, I would just reemphasize that that is a former assessor. He's no longer the assessor.
Okay.
That made that comment. So
Thank you.
just want to
Let's
clarify.
go back to Kathy Gallerani. Questions for the assessors, candidates?
I don't have another question.
Okay.
Neither do I.
You don't? Okay, I have another question. Why is this seat so hot in this town? Some towns you can't get enough people to run for this office. In Kingston, it's like you're talking about, it's like a corporate position. Why is this such a hot seat?
Well, simply put, it wasn't the assessor's position that drew me to the election, quite frankly. There was a lot of things occurring in the town that I didn't like. There was a lot of things I did like. And I found myself gaining information from other people who were involved. So when I saw the position open, I figured I don't earn the right to do anything, to complain about things I don't like if I'm not willing to do something about. I don't sing or dance. I don't measure. I don't make widgets. I value real estate. It's what I do. It's what I've done my entire life. I practice law and I value real estate. So when my town had an opening and a need, I decided I was going to answer the bell. That's what I'm here for.
Brad, why are you running for the seat?
Well, this is a
so
hot
hot.
seat in Kingston.
It is.
Because the department has been troubled for some years, so we had a former assessor who got into a bit of trouble. I think he was indicted, correct? So
I'd call that a bit of trouble.
Right, that's a bit of trouble. So we have an individual on the Board of Assessors. His name is Dan Harlow, and he has certainly been very passionate about bringing a lot of issues in the assessor's office to light, and it has generated a lot of discussion in town.
Okay.
And I think that's why you see so much interest.
Okay. John, Michael?
So kind of to piggyback off that, I also think that it has a lot to do with what I would consider to be somewhat of a historical election of Mr. Harlow. For me personally, I've seen a lot of what Mr. Harlow has done and also what he has tried to do. Although I'm a very independent thinker, there's a lot that he does that I agree with. And I think there are a lot more good things that could be done if he weren't the sole vote on the board in that regard. So that's one reason, but I think the main thing for me is just, I love the town, I care for the people, and I have concerns about the direction that we're going, and I think that, you know, it's time that I run to try to make a difference.
Okay, any questions from the audience
Can I
for
ask
the
another
assessors?
question before?
Sure. Go right ahead.
Mr. Harlow brought up a problem that he had with setting the tax rate. Do you agree with that position of his?
I'm not sure what you're referring to specifically.
He did not want us to approve the tax rate, right?
Are you talking about the tax clarification?
Yes.
Or classification, I should say?
Yes.
I didn't watch the meeting or get any input as to why he was against it. So it's hard for me to say that if I agree or disagree. I don't know what the thought process behind that was. Do you recall like what the discussion was or anything
No,
like
I'm just
that?
wondering what happens if two or more, or the majority of the board does not agree on setting the tax rate.
Well,
not good.
well, if my memory serves me right from previous years, I know that there have been issues where the rate is essentially the result of the valuations as they're assessed. So I believe the argument is that if you feel that the assessments are incorrect, then you are, at that point, you're making a decision based on what you feel are incorrect numbers, and how can you make a decision based on something that you feel isn't right? So if that were the case, then yeah, I would be in line with that. I mean, I don't think we can be making budgetary decisions and, you know, having impactful decisions and votes if we're not sure that what we're doing is accurate.
Okay.
So if that's why, then yeah, I would agree with that.
Same question for the other two candidates?
I'm not going to answer questions that I don't have information about. And quite frankly, not being privy to all the facts and figures that the board studied in their great detail and had to labor upon it, it would be pulling an answer from you know where just to sound good. So quite frankly, I have no answer because I did not have the benefit of knowing what they know. I very well could have agreed with them. I very well could have disagreed with them, but sitting before you, I don't have an honest answer for that.
Brad?
Yeah, so I've attended the Board of Assessors meetings almost religiously since before this campaign for a few months, and I think I know what you're referring to. There has been a discussion about discrepancies in assessments, and some of those discrepancies are like $6 or $10, and you know, there's a certain member of the board I've referenced, Mr. Harlow, has decided he didn't want to sign some tax bills. And so this goes into part of the reason I'm running. One of the fears is that if you get 2 out of 3 members of that board who, because discrepancies exist in assessors departments, they should always be fixed, or we should try to get the highest standard possible. But if you get 2 out of 3 that won't sign tax bills, I mean, how does the town fund level service? How do we fund our police? How do we fund our fire? Those are the reasons I'm really interested in this seat, Christine.
Any other questions from the audience here? Come on up.
While he's on the way up, I think we are going to have to call that the meatloaf provision.
Okay.
2 out of 3 in
I just want to
bad.
know why do assessors always come to your house like the messiest day of the year? Just a random thought. Okay.
Hi, Andy Davis. I'm a rec commissioner here in town. How would you rate how the assessor's office is run on a scale of 1 to 10, and why?
Okay, let's start here at this end. Brad?
I'd give it a 7.5. I think a lot of progress has been made in the past year. Probably more progress has been made in the past year than in the past 20, but there's still more to be done. One of the things I've been really impressed with was our town administrator appointed the town accountant, and I think the Board of Selectmen also, to be in charge of the assessor's department to help it run more efficiently, and I think that's been a very positive step in the right direction.
Okay. John Michael?
Well, being that we're vying for a position on the Board of Assessors, and it's going to be a lot of work with numbers, I'd like to clarify. I assume 10 is on the good side, right? Okay, before we answer, right? Of course, I could go with 5, and then it wouldn't make a difference. But it's hard to say from the outside looking in how an office operates or how a department operates. So I can give my opinion based on what I've seen at meetings, based on citizen interactions, and based on what citizens have told me. I would give it probably a 3 or a 4. I think that there has been some progress made. I think that there's been some good steps taken in the direction towards more transparency and more information getting out to the people. But in terms of Joe citizen coming up here and saying, you know, hey, 800 square feet appeared on my property card, the way those citizens are being received, the solutions that are being provided to them, that for me is a crucial part of what this board does, and I think that it's fallen short thus far in that regard. Thank you for the question.
The sky is not falling. I'd give it an 8, and the only reason why I wouldn't go higher, quite frankly, because I've gone in that office. They don't know who I am. They don't know I'm running. I'm just an appraiser when I have a question. They take care of me when I have a question. They're polite, they're respectful, they're prompt. I would have given it a higher grade, but some of the folks have reached out to me and gave me some of their concerns that were a little alarming. And it was something that you can't get walking in off the street like I have in the past. But knowing the people that are on the board right now and their willingness to work for this community and my willingness to work with them, I'm sure we can get that number up.
Okay. Tammy?
Hi, Tammy Murray. I'm actually speaking as part of the Board of Selectmen, basically because we don't have a lot of control over that board and that department. However, I have watched a lot of the meetings, and there's a lot of back and forth. You said this, no, I didn't, yes, you did, like 10 minutes worth. I'd like to know what each of you are going to do to leave the personal feelings outside and how you can better the appearance of the board for the residents.
Okay, let's start with John Michael.
First, I would just like to say that I think the appearance is the least important thing. I think what really matters is what we're doing as a board. So with that, to answer your question, how would we improve the actual operation of the board? I think that, you know, keeping the focus off of personal things, which I don't know that there are personal things, but I would say that you have to put the focus where it belongs, which is on the people, right? So if a citizen comes up here with an issue, I feel that if board members are kind of nitpicking with each other or whatever, that's because they're not actually focusing on the issue that matters, which is the citizen. So I think the easiest way to fix it is just focus on what matters. Focus on the people. That's what I would do.
Okay. Brad?
So I can control myself, but I can't control others. So Tammy, I would definitely pledge to be respectful to all board members and not engage in those types of back and forths when they happen.
Okay. Michael?
With a good approach to the problem. If you do your research when you're presented with a problem and you look at it before you go into the meeting and have a factual basis to give your opinion to your constituents and say, this is what I believe and this is why I believe it, you do it with persuasion and facts. And perhaps they've got persuasion and facts as well, and you come to an accord. Because at the end of it all, valuation, it's hard. It's not science. We'd all like it to be 2 times 3 is 6. But there is a lot of gray in there, so you need the perspective of others. But you need to go and gain their perspective by bringing some education, facts, and research.
Okay. One more quick question, okay? Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were in line. Thought you were just staring me down there. Peter Bonsick.
You know, at the last assessments that we had, I talked to a lot of people, and some of the houses have gone up 30, 40, 50, as high as 240,000 with the new assessment. And I talked to one person who went in for an abatement, and they wound up taking close to 80% off of the assessed value they had just done. I know everybody makes mistakes once in a while, but how do you fix this problem? You know, they come out and they say, you're going up 250,000. You go in and abate it, and all of a sudden it goes down to 75,000. How does that happen, and how would you stop that from happening?
Let's start right here. Let's start with Michael.
Well, there are extreme swings. When you talk about a 3-year valuation cycle, some of that data at the prior 3 years can be actually 3 years prior. So you're actually talking about a 6-year window at times where the valuation could have come into play. So that $200,000, while looking on it at face, seems significant, and it is. There could be a wide spread of things going on that could account for that. There could be 10% appreciation per year, accounting that as well. The fact remains, though, if there is an error in valuation, rest assured, most homeowners will be the first to let you know that they are overvalued. But when they do come in with it, you know, you look at it, see what happened. Mass valuation companies are used to gather the data, and they're not perfect. None of them are. Errors do happen, and when they do, you're not defined by your successes. You're defined by what you do when there is a problem. So look at it with the open mind. If they've got the data that says it's wrong, you get them their abatement. Make it right.
Okay. John Michael.
So for me, I believe that when it comes to problems, prevention can go a long way as opposed to fixing them after they happen. So for me, as I see this, one of the big issues behind these types of problems is that we do not have objective and standardized approaches or methods when we set assessments. So through going to a number of different Board of Assessors meetings and having interactions with board members and with Assistant Assessor Rafiki, it has been stated a number of times at meetings on the record that there's a great deal of variation with how they decide what a house is worth. So from Assistant Assessor Rafiki herself, we heard that they base it on sales in the neighborhood, market trends. We heard that it's based on even, oh, I drive by and I know Kingston, so if I drive by and I see something, I make a change. Or we take input from neighbors. These are all things that have come from the Assistant Assessor. So to me, these are not standardized approaches that are objective. So I think if we implement policies that standardize things a little bit more, I think that that will give us a way to prevent these types of problems.
Okay, thanks. Same question, Brad?
Well, I'll totally agree with that. Standard policies should be easily understandable. They should have common sense in mind. And if a policy doesn't have common sense, then it's usually not a good policy. When people come before the Board of Assessors, they often need help. So our job is to listen and to understand. And so I guess if I can understand Mr. Bonchek's question, the Board of Assessors is tasked with being fair and equitable. And so if that's not happening, then there's a problem, and we should do everything we can to fix it.
Okay. Let's go to a quick lightning round, then we're going to go to closing statements. Lightning round question for assessors.
If you weren't elected, would you vote for one of the other two or neither?
Could you hear that?
It was a little bit quiet.
Okay.
I was just curious, if you weren't going to vote for yourself, would you vote for one of the other two candidates or neither?
Let's start here, Brad.
Can I just clarify? Are we just supposed to say whether we'd vote, or are we supposed to say for who?
No, for who? We don't want to.
Oh,
I don't
just
get
whether you
that.
vote.
I'll just say yes, I would
Okay.
vote for one of the other two candidates.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Michael.
I'm already at the polling station, so I might as well do something.
Okay. Charlie?
What's your favorite spot in Kingston?
Let's start here, Brad, again.
Oh, the Adena, by far.
Okay.
Yeah.
John Michael.
Oh, I'd have to say my backyard.
Okay.
I'd have to say the bog, watching my daughter play hockey and having the chance to play hockey there myself.
Nice.
And seeing the kids I've coached.
Okay. Just one more quick lightning round. If you were not running for this board, what other board would you be running for? John Michael?
Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Michael?
I wouldn't be running.
Okay. Brad?
I also wouldn't be running. I'm only running because I want to run for assessor.
Okay. Let's go to our closing statements now. Let's start in the middle this time.
Thank you.
John Michael.
So we've heard a lot about credentials and a lot of good things from some other candidates up here. And we've also heard about, how the sky isn't falling, and I agree. And I think, Dan Harlow was elected to the board. He also did not possess all the credentials that one might expect from a board member. And I would agree that the sky hasn't fallen, and I think a lot of good things have come from that. I think a good solid good dose of common sense can go a long way. And I think having someone in there that's going to look out for the people, as I would, is very important and what we desperately need in town. So I love my town. I love the people. Been here my whole life. Don't plan on going anywhere. So I'd really like to just be able to get on the board and help contribute in any way possible. Thank you.
Brad?
I've analyzed the challenges facing this department, both real and perceived, and I hear what business owners are saying. I hear what residents are saying. I've never met an honest business owner that didn't want to pay their fair share. Can we do better as a community? Yes. The board works hard, but not always together. I envision a day when business owners feel a renewed sense of confidence in our assessing department, and a day when this town steps up and owns up to mistakes. A day when residents begin to get relief from the rising residential tax burden placed upon them. I'll spare no effort to seeing that reality happen, one resident, one business owner at a time. Thank you.
That's great. Michael?
I'd like to point out an analogy I've used in the past, actually two quick brief ones. If my car breaks down, I bring it to a mechanic. I don't bring it to the guy down the street who's always wanted to fix cars and hope that he gets it right, and then put my family at risk and put the town at risk and everyone on the highway at risk. Second, when I go to a doctor, I never ask how long he lived in the town. I ask if she knows what she's doing and if she's good at what she does. I'll bring you both of those things. I'm here to work for you, Kingston. I'm not here to get any other job. I'm not here looking upstream. I love this town. This is what I do. It's got a need. I can do it for you. Give me the chance.
Thank you. These are the three candidates for assessor. You've got John Michael Fonce, Michael Martin, and Bradford Randall. Thanks for coming up here and feeling the heat.
I think you comported yourself very well.
Guys, you got good candidates here in Kingston. They certainly know the issues. Moving on, because we are following the order on the ballot, we've got the planning board candidates, Joanne Cullen and Janet Stanford. Come on up. And we'll talk a little bit about the planning board. Come on up here on this candidates night here in the town of Kingston, sponsored by the Kingston Democratic Town Committee. But remember, it is a bipartisan event. Have a seat. How are you? Good. Have a seat. And we can just, everybody get, okay, everybody calm down a little bit so we can listen to this. And it is candidates night. Remember, library voices, library voices. Doesn't it help? I always say I try to channel the meanest fourth grade teacher I ever had. Hence the construction paper, and then asking people to use library voices. And I'm seeing, how old are you? Are you in fourth grade, young man? I just guessed. Isn't this a school night? Is this a little late for you to be here? Okay, good. You want to see democracy in action, right? Okay, sure, I like that. Smart young man. We've got the two candidates out here, and you first tell me, because I'm not sure who's who.
I'm Joanne Keller.
Joanne, nice to meet you. And Janet, nice, very nice to see. Okay, let's start with our opening statements, and let's start with Janet, and then we'll go to Joanne. 1 minute, please.
Hi, I'm Janet Stanford. I've been a resident of Kingston for 12 years now. I have twin girls who attend KIS.
Can you folks hear her? I can't either. Pull the mic a little
Sorry.
closer. Try that. How's that?
Okay.
You can start over.
Is that better?
Is that better?
Okay. Hi, I'm Janet Stanford. I've been a resident of Kingston for 12 years. I have twin girls who attend KIS. I believe I come with qualities that would make me a good addition to the planning board. My education includes a bachelor's degree in computer programming, a master's degree in counseling psychology. When I was in the technology field, I was a systems analyst. I had to be very detail-oriented, analytical, and be a good problem solver. As a therapist, I have to be very empathetic and a good listener. I believe all of these qualities and skills would make me a good asset to the planning board.
Thank you very much. That's Janet Stanford. Joanne Cullen, your opening statement.
Hi, thank you for having me, and thanks for everybody coming to listen.
Can you hear her? No, I can't hear you. Pull this a little bit closer. There you go.
Thank you all for coming, and thanks for listening. My name is Joanne Cullen. I've lived in the town for about 6 years. My husband and I moved here with our 3 daughters. We've really come to love the town and the people. I've been sitting on the sidelines, kind of watching town government, and I thought it was time for me to step up and try and contribute as well. My background is I'm a certified project manager. I've been an IT PMI certified project manager for 30 years. I started my career in finance at Fidelity Investments, and I used to run the operations for Fidelity Real Estate. So I managed a group of CAD technicians. We were responsible for all the drawings in all the buildings, and I also supported all the construction project managers. So I have a background in looking at plans, understanding drawings and proposals, constructions, and different, basically all the things that the planning board looks at when they're evaluating new businesses that come into town. So I think all these skills will lend themselves well to this position, and I look forward to serving the town.
Thank you very much. That was Joanne Cullen. Now, let's go to questions for our candidates. Kathy Gallerani from Wicked Local.
The planning board has had maybe the unenvious task of talking about recreational marijuana sales and where they should go, and should marijuana sales be developed or banned in Kingston?
Okay, let's start with Joanne.
Well, first of all, I don't think that's the planning board's decision. That's the town decision. The planning board hears proposals, and we stand by the master plan and the Kingston bylaws. That said, the bylaws currently support a marijuana. It is legal in the state, and the town did vote to have that business come in. So I fully support that, and I think we should work with those businesses to make sure that it's a good fit. They should be thoughtful, mindful decisions, and we should look at those proposals very closely. But yes, I think they'll add a lot to the town, and I fully support them.
Okay, same question, Janet.
Okay, so Joanne's right. The planning board doesn't make that decision. That decision will and should be made at town hall. But I'm going to be honest. I mean, half the people in this room already know how I feel. I don't want the shops here, and I stand by that. But the decision will be made. It will be made. Again, the decision last year, it was a very confusing vote. I think it's good that everyone, the BOS decided to hold off and wait until town meeting and
let us have a chance to really see how residents feel. And if I become a member of the planning board, I'll have to abide by that bylaw. You know, that's just what, I'm there to represent you, everyone out here. I'm not there to represent myself. And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The planning board is proposing some zoning changes, however. Do you support them?
Oh, okay. Oh,
We'll do a follow-up with each one. We'll
Oh,
start with
sorry.
Janet, then go to Joanne.
Last year, I was the person who got up and made an amendment to move it to commercial. I mean, from commercial to industrial, commercial industrial. And I thought that was a good compromise, you know, because it is divided. It's divided almost 50-50. So I thought, you know, why not just move it out of the residential areas? So I do support, well, there's about 5 articles coming up, so.
I guess I'm referring to the
Yeah,
planning boards
I'm
in
sorry.
particular, not any kind of petitioned article.
I
That's
think
good. Go
the two that I think they propose is, one is moving it from 1,000 feet to 500 feet, and the other one is making it industrial zone, I believe. Can you correct, is that right? I think, is that what you're asking? So I do support making it industrial zoned. I do not support decreasing it to 500. I think we can work with the 1,000.
Charles?
Now, don't jump on me for this, okay? But, ladies, I'm a bit of a weirdo in that, in that as a journalist, I actually enjoy covering planning and zoning. And everyone else in any newsroom I've ever been in has said, why? So I'm going to ask you the same question. Why would you want to run for planning board? It's long nights. The pay isn't all that great. Oh, it's non-existent. And it's really detailed work and a lot of homework. Janet?
Okay, so when all this marijuana issues came up, you know, I had already been going to town meetings, so that wasn't anything new. But, you know, I did get more interested, and I started, you know, watching the planning board meetings. I started going to the planning board meetings. And I just thought, you know, my children are growing up in this town. I plan on living here the rest of my life. And I do care. I care about, you know, what kind of housing goes up in Kingston. I care about what businesses come to town. I care about open space. I mean, it seems that the planning board covers everything, if you think about it. It's just, you know, you read the master plan, which I have done, and it's huge, because it's talking about every aspect of Kingston. So that's why I'm interested in the planning board.
Okay, same question, Joanne?
Same with me. Like I said, my big thing was volunteering. I looked at all the positions, actually, and I thought this one was the best fit because of my background and because that's what I do is I look at proposals. I'm a real estate, and like I said, I have a background in real estate, project management, and also on a daily basis, I'm reading requests for proposals, RFPs, which are basically what you're reading. I went to see Rob, the planner, and he showed me the big binder that they get every Friday in preparation for the Monday meeting. So I'm like, okay, there goes a little portion of my weekend. But again, I love this town. I've been watching on the sidelines for a while, and I really do want to contribute. And I actually am a bit of a geek, too. Like I said, I love reading plans. I love reading proposals, and I just want to help.
3 weirdos.
Yeah.
How much of a role does the planning board have in developing affordable housing, and should they do more? Joanne?
We do have a role. It is stated in the master plan that we're expected to have some. I think we're under right now, and we need more. So I think we are encouraged to look at those proposals that come in and give them precedence, and I think we are obligated to do that. So I would support it.
Should that board be doing more?
Yeah, I think they should.
Okay, same question, Janet.
You know, again, the board, people come to the board with their plans, and the board reviews them. So they don't go out looking, you know, to recruit people to build housing or even businesses. They don't do that. But having said that, just a few weeks ago, the townhouses, I think, going up down near Solstice, Susan Boyer pointed out that the developer who already put some of those townhouses in a few years ago, there was a mix-up between him and the town planner, Tom Bott, so I won't get into that. But they neglected to have the low-income housing. They didn't put they were supposed to have 1 unit, I believe. I might not have this 100% right. But what happened was, so now he's proposing to put some more houses there, townhouses. So, you know, Susan Boyer pointed that out, so they made this, not a concession, but this agreement now, he's gonna put, I think, 2 units in the new building. So she caught it, you know, and that was her role.
If you feel like you didn't get to finish up a question during this period, you can always use your
Okay.
final statement to do that. Any follow-up questions with that? Okay.
Well, how
Kathy?
familiar are you, both of you, with the master plan, and are there areas that you think should be developed that haven't been
Janet?
sufficiently?
Okay, so I skimmed through it. I mean, like Joanne said, it's, you know, a couple of inches thick. And there's a little bit of a maybe, well, I don't know how many of you people have read the master plan, but it's kind of a misconception to me, because when I read it, it was like everything you want to know about Kingston. It wasn't a plan. It was just, it talked about housing, it talked about, you know, businesses, it talked about transportation, it talked about water, it talked about sewer. It just talked about everything, open spaces. The planning part, it's suggestions, and it's only about 20% of that plan. So it's not like a definitive plan. It's suggestions, and I don't know if I answered the question. I'm sorry, but
That's up to you.
I guess I'm done. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Same question, Joanne.
Can you just repeat the question for me? Sorry.
Well, how familiar are you with the master plan? And are there areas that have not been followed through that you think could be more?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the plan is a guideline. It focuses on growth, commercial growth, infrastructure growth. It also reaches out to Janet's point, you know, to the residents of town. Like, it's a visionary report in a sense. You know, what do you see Kingston becoming? What do you want it to become? And, you know, from what I've read, it does encourage a lot of growth, and I'm a big advocate of growth. I know a lot of folks, I said that at the last forum that we had at the Hilltop, and a lot of people kind of jumped on me because there's already traffic on 3A. But I think growth is inevitable, and I think it should be welcome, especially to relieve the town's burden with residential taxes. And as Elaine pointed out, there's a lot of potential, and there's, you know, I think we're on a good track, and the master plan supports all of that in terms of water, infrastructure, businesses, all types of businesses, and community as well. So there's a lot there, and I think it's all good.
Okay.
There was a lot of discussion among the selectmen candidates about commercial growth, and Kingston has some opportunities, as mentioned, depending on the town meeting action adjacent to Colony Place, the Mary O'Donnell property that has the train station next door. Where would you prioritize commercial growth? I know you don't look proactively, you approve applications as they come in, but where would you prioritize commercial growth in town?
Start with Joanne.
I would 3A, I think that, like I said, right off the exits, I think is the prime area. It's very underutilized. Also, as Paul mentioned, Paul Dallin, the area behind Walmart, it's not huge, but it's great. It's already, you're already down there shopping in the Plymouth side. I think there's a lot of potential over there that we could use.
Janet?
I would say by the train station, Mary O'Donnell's property. In fact, I just asked Susan Boyer the other night, what happened with that? Because I wasn't following town politics as closely back then, and she mentioned something about an on-ramp. There was a problem because they wanted to have a direct access to the on-ramp. So I wish I knew more about that, like why that didn't go, not that the ramp didn't go through, but why couldn't they have just said no ramp, but then still develop down there? So I didn't understand that too well. So I'd like maybe the town needs to take another look at that. And I think the mall, too, because I think that's a big property, and I think they should do something up there. So those are the two areas. But I don't think 3A necessarily. I think some smaller businesses are 3A, but I don't think there should be anything major that would increase the traffic, because residents don't want that.
Okay. Would you make any changes to the way the planning board is run currently? Do you see a need for that, Joanne?
No, I don't. I don't attend as many, but I've attended a few, and I watch a lot on PAC, and I think they run very well. Tom Bouchard does a great job as the chair. Like I said, I've talked to Rob, and he's very knowledgeable. He's very young-looking, but he knows his stuff, and he's very knowledgeable. And the one thing about the planning board is they're very cohesive. They all get along. You don't see a lot of dissension. You see disagreements, and they're talked out. They listen very well to the citizens. It's very open. They're very welcoming to the public speaking, and they're all very diplomatic. So I think it's a great board.
Okay. Janet?
Well, I've gone to a lot of meetings, and I think it's a pretty good board. I mean, I said at the last debate I attended that we get to speak. Tom always lets us get up and talk, and you know, whether it's a hearing or just someone's, you know, presenting a plan. I have just a few little things, like sometimes when these people have their plans and they're talking to the planning board, I can't see what they're talking about. I wish they could give some kind of handouts. I think that would be great for people that are sitting there. I think lately the marijuana issue has been kind of difficult for the board, and I think maybe they could tighten up a little bit as far as giving their opinions. I think, you know, it gets a little tricky. And I think it gets a little uncomfortable for the residents when we're in the audience.
Okay. I'd like to take this time to see if there's any questions from the audience for planning board candidates. Oh, come on, there's got to be one question from the audience. No questions from the audience for planning board candidates? Okay. Let's go to our lightning round questions then for the candidates for planning board. Kathy Gallerani.
Do you shop at Kingston Collection?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Janet?
Once in a while I do.
Okay. Charlie?
What's your favorite spot in town?
Grace Beach.
Ditto.
Okay. If you weren't running for this position, would you run for another place in town politics, Janet?
I might want to join like the Recreation Commission, something like that. Because
Joanne?
She stole my answer. Yeah, I want to see that stage. I actually was considering Recreation Board. I want to see the stage at Grace Beach used and get some nice bands in there. Yeah.
We're going to go to the final, your closing statements now. So we'll reverse order. Who started when we started this? Did you start, Janet? Okay.
Yeah.
So then you'll make your final statement, Joanne.
Again, thank you everybody for coming. Thanks for the Kingston Democratic Society and for the moderator and all of you for coming and listening. I do think I'm qualified for this position. I look forward to serving the town. Again, my main motivation is I don't have a lot of planning experience, but I do learn very fast. I can study these plans. I understand the bylaws, and I think I can add a lot to the town. So I appreciate your consideration, and I hope to get your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Joanne Cullen, now Janet Stanford.
Okay. I have my cheat sheet, I'm sorry. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you tonight. I'm very sincere in my hope of contributing to Kingston by working as a member of the planning board. Kingston's already a great town. We should keep everything that's good about it, and we should just try to improve the things that could be improved. I hope you share this goal with me, and I would appreciate your vote on April 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the two. That was Janet Stanford, the two candidates here for planning board. Thank you for coming up here. I appreciate that. And I know that next on the ballot is the Silver Lake Regional School Committee. I know the two incumbents are not here tonight, but I believe that Rosa Lopez is here tonight, and so come on up. Kind of a mini debate with yourself. That'll be great.
That's great, 'cause I gotta be at school at 7:20 tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Let's do it quick.
Okay. Rosa Lopez, you are running for Silver Lake Regional School Committee, so an opening statement, then we'll ask you a round of questions.
Absolutely. So my name is Rosa Lopez Whitehill. I've been a Kingston resident for 25 years. I have 3 daughters. 2 of them graduated from Silver Lake and are in college. The third one is a freshman at Silver Lake. I am a teacher at a middle school in Pembroke, and the reason why I'm here tonight is that as a teacher, I thought that I could make a lot of changes in people's lives, and I'm finding out that that's not the case. It's really the school committee that has a lot of the power over the schedule, the curriculum, the program of studies, everything really that happens within the building. I am here because I represent kids that cannot speak for themselves. They can't vote. They're not 18 yet. But if they could vote, and if they could speak to you, they would tell you that they are overwhelmed with anxiety and depression. At my school, and this is a middle school, so we're talking 12 and 13-year-olds, 25% of the visits to the nurse are not for a Band-Aid. They are for kids that have to get out of the classroom because they cannot cope. They have anxiety and they have depression.
Nope. Sorry to cut you
That's
off
okay.
right there. Let's start with our questions now. Kathy Gallerani.
Had you considered serving for school committee before, and why now?
With 2 daughters in college and the third one at the high school, and feeling more confident as a teacher, I think that now is the time. I just have more time in my hands, and I feel more seasoned as a teacher to see what's really happening behind the scenes.
Charlie.
Do you think it's an advantage being a teacher or a conflict of interest, serving both roles?
So I am a resident of Kingston, but I teach in Pembroke, so I don't see how that would be a conflict. I think part of what's missing in the school committee is the voice of the parents and the voice of the teachers. I think the school committee sometimes is looking at budgets, and of course that's all important, how to cover the costs. But what's getting lost in the middle of all that is, we're not serving the kids.
Is Joy treating you okay over there?
I'm sorry?
Is Joy treating you okay?
Yeah, she's a great superintendent.
You spoke a little bit about the intense pressure that kids feel. And we hear this, in all the towns that WATD covers.
Mm-hmm.
It always surprises me about the things that are going on in schools, kids cutting themselves,
Yep.
the horrible pressure of social media that I never remember as a kid because it wasn't around.
Exactly.
Things were over at the end of the day. Now
Right.
it's 24/7. And, a lot of pressure to perform. What could you do as a school committee member to try to alleviate some of that, or at least bring attention to that issue or those issues? It's tough to be a kid.
Absolutely. They have things now that, we never had to deal with. The phones, you name it, Fortnite, video gaming, addiction to video games. I think that being in the front lines every day and seeing what the kids deal with every day makes me an excellent candidate for the school committee. I want to see a more holistic approach to the schedule. I would like to see a more flexible schedule. I would like to offer kids opportunities to complete their credits, maybe online, if they're having trouble. A way to recover credits, way to see teachers during the day. To try to learn the material that they miss, maybe because they've been, sick or haven't been in school. I just think that we have to look at all of that.
Okay. Kathy?
Do you have any budget experience? Question.
No, I do not. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But as a teacher, I see a lot of grant opportunities come through. I think teachers are really creative in trying to solve budget solutions. Because we do get a lot of emails with, opportunities for grants, for technology, for capital expenditures, for, field trips and different things.
Okay, Charlie.
Our colleague, John Creed, was a longtime member of the Regional School Committee, and I'm sure he's listening. Hi, John. So I have to ask on his behalf, what priority you would put on vocational education?
I assign a high priority to that. And here is why. When kids come to Silver Lake Regional High School for the CTE program, their residential districts pays for the cost of the transportation and the education for that child. So it's a benefit to us. So if we can expand CTE and bring in more programming, we would attract more money to the district, and that would offset some of the high costs of special education and, and teacher salaries and other things that are high.
Do you think start times for the schools should be tweaked even more for
Absolutely.
the kids? Is it too
Absolutely.
early?
It's way too early. All the research that we've seen on the brain tells us that kids' brains are not awake till about 8:30 in the morning. My kids, my school, they start at 7:20. My first class, they are asleep. They're not learning. You put on top of that all the stress and anxiety that they're feeling, they can't learn when they're feeling stressful and anxious. And some of them stay up because they're video gaming. It's just a cocktail of really negative stuff what's happening right now. I think later start times would really help middle school and high school students.
Okay. Any questions from the audience here? Come on up, John, Michael.
Thank you.
Lance.
Good evening, John Michael Font, 16 May Avenue. I'd like to get some input from you about how you feel about this whole issue with the anxiety and the depression. As a former sufferer in my formative years of anxiety, I understand it quite well, and I haven't been to a whole lot of school committee meetings. I've been to maybe one or two, but I did hear some talks at that meeting that I was at about cuts to art and other programs and music and things like that. And I'd like to hear from you a little bit about how you feel. Maybe I could just tell you what I feel, and then you can tell me if you agree or if you feel differently. So my position is that in that regard, I think that we're kind of going into a vicious cycle where we are allocating funds towards mental health professionals within the schools, but we're also cutting other programs. Mm-hmm. And I feel that cutting of those programs is what I would equate to reduction of what a lot of students use as outlets to alleviate anxiety. So my fear is that as we allocate more and more funds towards mental health professionals and we make cuts elsewhere, we're actually feeding that dragon, so to speak. So I'd like to hear from you what you think about that, because in my day, you know, it was football, it was baseball, it was gym class, it was art, it was whatever, and it helped, you know, and I'm not saying those things are gone, but I'd just like to hear what you feel about that kind of theory, I guess you could call it. Thank you.
I do agree with you. I think that is part of the problem, that as budgets tighten, those are the first things that get cut, and then the kids don't have an outlet. What I propose, especially with the CTE program being there in place already and being a jewel for Kingston, is try to do cross-curricular combinations of art and science, music and math. Try to have a holistic approach to the schedule and bring in a program of studies that encompasses all that, because the careers of the future are not going to be for people that are sitting behind a desk crunching numbers. The people now in their careers have to communicate with people across the world in collaborative teams. And so I think that having that kind of approach in the program of studies would be really beneficial from an emotional standpoint, but also from an academic standpoint.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have time for another question from the audience? Do we have anybody else? Okay, come on up.
Hi. So sitting on a regional school district, you're going to be representing Kingston with other committee board members from other towns. What are some needs unique to Kingston within the Silver Lake District, and how will you represent those?
I think within Kingston, we share more of the burden, right? Because it is a bigger town, so you know it's most of our taxes that are paying for the school, but that can also be an asset. I think that because the school is in Kingston, and if we can attract kids from Pembroke and other districts, which are closer to Kingston, that's less transportation dollars for us. You know, I think all school districts are facing tough times right now, including mine, where I work in Pembroke. So I just think we need to be more creative on how we attract kids to our districts, especially when you have a vocational school.
Okay, let's do our quick lightning round, then we'll go to closing statements. Kathy?
Where did you go to school, high school?
So I am a former ELL student. I actually came from Puerto Rico. I moved here when I was 15 years old, and I went to Buckley High School in Hartford, Connecticut. After that, I went to New York to Parsons School of Design, and I have a Master's of Education from American International College.
Okay. Sure.
My mother was a teacher, so I want to hear your teacher voice.
This is what you're getting. This is it. No, I'm pretty calm. I think I'm pretty calm in the classroom.
What was your best subject in school?
Art.
Which subject did you really dislike? Come on. You've got a fourth grade.
Do I
did
have
the
to
fourth
say
grader
that?
leave?
Yes.
Are there any math teachers in the room?
No.
I did not like math.
Okay. Let's go to your final statement. I know you've got to teach tomorrow.
Yes,
Those kids,
absolutely.
the kids at, what is it, 7:20?
7:20, and it's the last day before April vacation. Yes, I'm gonna need a lot
Bring
of
in
coffee.
a couple of, bring in a couple of like really sugary drinks.
Yeah.
And you've got recipe for success tomorrow. Closing statements, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm honored to be here. I think the democratic process is fabulous, and I just thank you for sticking here, being here, and listening to me for this long. I think I'm the right candidate because as I said, I'm in the front lines every day. I am seeing what's happening with the kids. And I think what is missing is communication between the school committee, the teachers, and the parents. I think that at times it almost seems combative, that teachers don't want to talk to school committee members and feel that somehow they're after them. I want my job. I know that if the school committee and I are communicating, I am not going to lose my job. I think we have the best interests for the children in our schools. And so that's why I asked for your vote on April 27th.
Thank you very much. The Rosa Lopez, was it Whitehall?
My married name is Whitehill.
Okay, Whitehill.
But my maiden name is Lopez.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Phew. Thank you. Guess what? It's the last race. Come on down. It's time for the sewer commissioners. Come on. Peter Bonsek, have a seat. Elaine Fiore, come on up. Okay. Thank you. Good audience tonight. You're very patient. Appreciate that. This is, I think, the most, in the 10 or so years that we've been doing this, this is the most contested races I think we've had since we've done this, which is great. So, very patient. See, you're not the MTV generation. You're patient. You can sit here. Just my little comment. All right. Let's start with opening comments. I'll start with you, Peter, and then we'll go to Elaine. Then we'll flip it at the end.
All right. Once again, Peter Bonsek. I'm a very conservative, sometimes outspoken. I can be blunt at times, but that's the way I am. But I'm going to tell you the truth of what I feel. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm going to tell you the way I think things are. And I think regarding what election you're running for, what seat you're running for, you need to be honest and you need to have transparency. And I'm not seeing a lot of that lately at all. So, and I tell you the truth, I really didn't want to run for sewer commissioner, but I hate seeing seats run unopposed, especially when you get a long-term thing, but I can make this. Let's say, tell you what, Elaine, if you drop out of selectman, I'll drop out of this. How's that?
Okay. Elaine, your opening statement?
I'm seeking re-election as a sewer commissioner because I am a sewer customer and a qualified sewer commissioner. I have a vested interest in the reliability and cost of the operations. We are looking at expanding the wastewater treatment plant to support economic development in town. The intent is to extend the sewer line to include properties near Kingston Collection Way and Marion Drive. The municipal sewer line may be extended to town and country estates if they wish to abandon their aging treatment plant. The sewer line is not being extended down Route 106 Wapping Road. The sewer line is not being extended down Route 27 Pembroke Street. The purpose of this project is not to bring the sewer line to the rest of the town. The project would be paid by grants, existing sewer customers who want to purchase additional capacity, development at Exit 8, not the taxpayers. I was a sewer commissioner during the Phase 2 sewer project. The project was completed 6 months early and came in under budget. I have the experience and knowledge to see another major project through to completion.
Thank you, Elaine Fiore. Kathy Gallerani from Wicked Local. Questions for the candidates here?
I guess it's kind of obvious how you feel about this. Peter, can you explain it further?
About the expansion? Yeah. Again, about honesty. When we met with the sewer commissioner, with the capital planning committee, Elaine came out and said right away, this is not about economic development. And she made her statement on that. And then the following selectmen meeting, she's reading through the warrant, and she says this is about economical development. So, this is where the honesty thing comes through. If you're going to say something, you got to say it honestly and correctly. Now, the information we got was it's going to be an estimated $27 million project, okay, with a $3 million grant that's already gotten. They filed for another $3 million grant, which has not come back and may not come back. And they were going to file, again, this is the information I was told at the meeting, they still have to file for a federal grant, which it hasn't been done yet at the time of the meeting, okay? So that brings it down to $18 million. If the users are going to pay for it, somebody has to pay for it first to be built. So read the article that's on the warrant to see what it says.
Elaine, when you went to the Finance Committee, you told them it was economic development?
When I went to a couple of meetings. When I went to the Capital Plan Committee meeting, I said I was not going to talk about economic development because I was there with the superintendent of the wastewater treatment plant. I was a sewer commissioner that night, and the discussion was about the project, not about economic development. When I went to the Finance Committee meeting, they're the numbers people. They want to know what's it going to cost, what it's going to do. I talked about economic development. To me, that's not talking out of both sides of your mouth. It's the board that I'm in front of and the information that they're requesting. And
Did you have
Where you're proposing this expansion?
yes, and we have a $3 million grant. We have applied for other financial avenues, and it will not go forward if it's not affordable. People are not going to want the capacity if it's not affordable. If it's not affordable, people aren't interested, we won't move forward.
Thank you. Charles?
I'm shocked that in Kingston we've talked about process and politics, but I would like to know, what are the pros and cons of the expansion? Peter?
Well, the pros are probably in a future time that if we get people who will commit to economical development. I don't see putting something out there to try, because right now they don't have anybody that's committing to it. You're looking at, they talked about the hotel. I don't see any kind of plans yet that even been done for the hotel. So by the time they come through and get built, it could be 4 years from now. And to say that the residents aren't going to pay for it, again, there's the con part, is because it says that in the article that why are we borrowing 18, 19, 20 million dollars? Why is the town looking to borrow that? So somebody has to pay for it up front, and we can't sit back and wait to see who's going to come use it. And that will fall on the taxpayers.
Elaine, just to the project, what are the pros and cons?
The pro of the project is we can honor requests for the developments that we've been asked to put in. We've had office buildings suggested. We have restaurants. We've had to say no to all these businesses. We had a farm-to-table shop that wanted to open up in the center of town. We have continuously saying no to these people at exit 8, 9, and 10 because there's no sewer capacity. A con of the expansion, I don't see one. And I'm not avoiding the question. It comes down to, if it's not affordable, if we don't have the commitments, we don't spend $1. So we're not going into this blindly. The project's either going to happen or it's not. And the article reads it will be paid for by betterments and connections, and the pros are generating additional revenue we don't have today.
Now, the idea has come out that it might be too expensive, but you might not be able to afford it. But can you afford not to do it, looking down the road, say, 10 years ahead, Peter?
I really don't see we're going to get the economical development they've been talking about for the last 2007 that I've been involved in this. It's always the same thing, economical development, and it doesn't happen. And that's not to do with the sewer. Don't forget, some of these businesses that are not on the sewer line up by the hotel, they can make their own septic system. They don't have to go on sewer unless they're forced to. But they don't have to have sewer to build. Down by the MBTA station, if the properties get sold, they could put in septic systems. They don't need the sewer. Now, they talked about bringing the sewer back down to towards the off of 53, the Duxbury line. And they were supposed to have a presentation. Tom Calder and Lane was supposed to have a presentation with the people of Town and Country. Okay? If they said yes, the amount of money that would cost these people that are on fixed income would be phenomenal.
Elaine, same question. Do you think the town can afford not to do it?
I don't think the town can afford not to do it at this time. And there's incorrect information being said tonight. Tom Calder and I were not going to be doing a presentation this Saturday. There was going to be a discussion with, I was going to discuss it.
I didn't say this Saturday.
Let her finish her speak. Okay.
No one's being forced to do anything. Right now, we have revenue, we have grants. If we don't do it now, it's not going to happen. Every year we wait, it's going to cost more, it's going to be more expensive to do it. It's misinformation. The facts are, if we don't get this done now, I don't see it happening. The sewer commissioners are not doing this because we had nothing else to do. This is being brought forward because we are getting the requests and we're losing opportunities day after day. There's an 8,000 square foot office building ready and primed to go at exit 8. We have no sewer capacity.
Okay.
It's that simple.
I'll have to follow up
Okay.
on the presentation.
30 seconds.
All right. On the presentation that was supposed to be given by yourself and Tom Calder was happening until I talked to Don Duchamp of the Town and Country that I asked to be able to speak at that presentation. And after I did that, he brought it to the front of the board, and he called me back and said that because it could turn into a debate thing through candidates and not all the other candidates, they are suspending that presentation. I did not say it was this Saturday, but there was a plan for a presentation.
Okay. Kathy Gallerani, questions?
Peter, first, what do you think the Sewer Commission should be focusing on?
Keeping the updates of the sewer plant itself. You know, of course, looking into the future. But I'm not saying we don't need this. We don't need this now. And you know, if it was, say if it was $500,000, okay. But you're talking $27 million that are estimated to be with the grants. If all come through, it's $18 million. And the wording on it's going to be there's going to be a word intent on the wording. See, I'm Capital Planning Committee. We haven't voted on it yet because I've been waiting for the final wording of the article. I've yet to get it, so we cannot vote on it to recommend it or not. And this was the last meeting that we had. So it's an article that I don't think should be going, and I urge people to vote no on it because it's going to wind up, I don't care what anybody says, it's going to wind up costing the taxpayers money, especially if they put it with the affordable housing, and that was said it could be $750 to $1 million. Let's take care of let's make Kingston affordable for the residents that live here before anybody else.
Thank you.
Elaine, we know that Peter has a problem with transparency. How would you make the sewer commissioners more transparent?
Well, to take this project as an example, I'm doing a PAC TV show tomorrow to talk about the sewer expansion. We're planning 3 different public outreach presentations to get the information out there prior to town meeting so everybody has the facts, not what someone's hearing on the street or somebody's interpretation. The facts are the facts.
What specifics would you do, Peter, to make the sewer commission more transparent?
First of all, be honest, and don't sit back and, you know.
Well, you said that, but what specifically would you do to make the commission more transparent?
More than telling the truth, and you know, Elaine, I believe it said earlier that they have plans she wants to finish in the selectmen for the geez, I can't think of the word now. But to do that, it's got to be too much power in between the two, and not. And she said we have details, but I haven't heard those details. I would want to hear everything that they're talking about. They came against the Capital Planning Committee. They said they weren't transparent enough, so they had to video it. This is a $27 million project. Why isn't this being videoed? Why isn't this being transparent?
So we're not going to settle it
Tonight. Any other issues on the sewer, with the sewer commissioners besides this project, or is this pretty much it? Elaine?
No, we have two other initiatives we were working on this year. One is the inflow infiltration analysis to make sure the delivery system is working correctly after the infrastructure is 20 years old. And we are renewing our groundwater discharge permit, which allows us to operate the plant on a daily basis. So there's more to being a sewer commissioner than this particular project. And both of these are projects involved our engineerings and meetings with DEP. So there's a lot to being a sewer commissioner that isn't apparent.
Peter, what do you think about the other two projects? Do you have strong feelings about those as well?
Honestly, I don't know enough about them. So, you know, it's not, like I said, not that I'm saying I know everything about the sewer commission. I do know that the plans that are going through, and that's why I want to speak about it, because I disagree with it. That's it.
Okay. How about some questions from the audience, okay?
Quick and simple answer, Peter. 10 years from now, is it going to cost us less?
I didn't hear you, Dave.
You said 10 years from now, is this project going to cost us less?
In 10 years from now, will this project cost us less?
More than likely not. Okay? Maybe everything goes up, but we also have a $7 to $10 million police department we're looking at. They're looking at spending between $1 and $4 million for the library. So there's no, I know what you're talking about. You're asking me if it's going to cost more. I'm going to explain to you that everything goes up, and with everything added together, it is not sustainable for the residents of Kingston, and they need to be represented where they come first.
Okay. Same question for you, Elaine. Is the cost going to go up if they don't do it now?
So your answer is, Peter, we go to the town meeting and vote everything down.
I didn't hear what you said, Dave.
I think you said your answer is go to town meeting and vote everything down.
Well, no, I never said that. Why are you putting words in my mouth, Dave? I didn't say that.
Okay, let's just stick to the questions here.
I agree with that.
Okay.
So
All right.
agree with you.
Okay.
Yes, the project will be more expensive in 10 years. The project will be more expensive in 1 year.
Okay. John Michael, question?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to point out that I've always had at least a little bit of concern with the same individual being on more than one board, but I did point out that there is an advantage that if you wanted to ask someone during the selectmen's and didn't get a chance, they're back up here, so now you get to, which is my case. So when I think of sewer issues and projects and things of that nature, I think it's pretty high on the totem pole in terms of things that directly impact the citizens, financially and in many other ways. So for me, I foresee that some of these projects that are being discussed could result in a lot of input and participation from citizens throughout town. To Ms. Fiore, under your authority as chairman of the Board of Selectmen, there was a point not too long ago where there was a pretty consistent police presence at Board of Selectmen meetings due to some citizens who were rather passionate about some issues being debated. I'd like to know from you whether or not you have any regrets about having Kingston Police present at Board of Selectmen meetings, and if so, if there are situations that arise at sewer commission meetings where citizens who are rather passionate about particular issues start to come in, would you do the same thing?
So the question is?
The question is, are there any regrets about having the police at the Board of Selectmen meetings?
No, this is for the sewer commission.
Right.
This is not for
So
selectmen.
the question is, if issues come up again where citizens come into sewer commissions meetings who may or may not be rather passionate about issues pertaining to this project, would you do the same thing? And if not, what would you do differently in terms of a police presence at the meeting? Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer that. If the same thing that happened at the selectmen's meeting happens at that meeting, yes, and I will explain what I mean by that. During the selectmen's meeting, there was a few individuals at the podium who I asked to stop talking. I gavelled them. They did not sit down. They would not stop so the meeting could continue. Those particular individuals sat in the back row of this room, texting. I don't know who they were texting. They'd come in and out of the doors, texting. Then they'd get up and they'd leave. The other one would text, get up and leave. This building is open until 7:30 on Tuesday nights. I did not know what we were going to walk out to, because after those individuals finally got off the podium, there was loud discussions in the hallway. I was concerned for every single resident and every single employee in this town that I didn't know what they were walking out into. So yes, I will do that again any day. If I think that there's any risk of anybody being,
Thank you, Elaine. Okay.
Thank you.
Question for Peter Bonsack?
Oh, no, no more questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. One more question. There's one more?
Was that the end, or are you gonna?
No, just
oh,
one more.
fantastic. They're clapping for me?
Yes, Josh.
So,
Very appearance.
so I've been fortunate enough to take a tour of the wastewater treatment plant, and it's fascinating. I know another candidate who's running for the one-year seat this year as well toured with me, and it's a remarkable building to tour. It's spotless, and you'd think that building being the receiver of some rather unwanted waste, it wouldn't be that way. So I'm hoping that both candidates, starting with Peter, because I think Elaine got that last one, can you walk us through day-to-day operations at the wastewater treatment plant, and to as much detail as you can, or are willing to, the process that the waste travels through from the time that it enters the plant to the time that they ship it out?
Everybody ready for a snack now? Right ahead.
Do I go there and watch it? Is that what he said?
He just wants to know if you could talk about the process for the plant, like from how it gets from A to B, so to speak.
Well, that's why we have, that's why we have a department head that takes care of that. I don't need to know that. I want to bring common sense and honesty and conservatism to the board. I don't need to know how it operates. So there's your answer.
Okay. Same question, Elaine?
I disagree with that. You do need to know how a department you're going to be overseeing and working with, you do need to know how it operates. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of conversations between the staff and the sewer commissioners, and they need our support to do the job that they do, and we do need to know what is the operation from start to finish.
Okay.
I even went to when I first got on, I took a 6-week course at Mass Maritime. I'm a wastewater treatment plant operator, to make sure that I knew exactly what was going on in that building.
Okay, got time for one more question from the audience. Okay. Paul? Step lively now.
How you doing? Paul Darling, Kingston ZBA. My question, I guess it's not a question, but a statement, but a question involved.
Has to be a question.
All right. Expansion of the sewer system. It's a double-edged sword, I feel. I'm on the fence. I mic'd it off, sorry. Double-edged sword. I feel we need it for some economical expansion for issues we might have up near the exit 8 area. But my fear is that the expansion, now that our first sewer system was because of sensitive areas that we had, such as the Nook, and it required all of 3A Main Street to kind of fund the rest of it.
Could you get to the question, please?
Sorry. Can you tell the rest of the residents that aren't going to be affected on this second system that we're hoping to push through, what beneficial, other than the economical reasons that might be up at Exit 8, but the capacity will allow other areas in town residential areas to be hugely impacted.
Okay.
Especially on sewer, like 40Bs can then generate anywhere they want.
Okay. Elaine?
There's not enough vacant property on the sewer lines to get 40Bs or anything like that.
Okay.
Not on the sewer line.
Just let her finish the question.
Well,
that's my fear.
Okay.
I still say there's not, 40Bs can go anywhere. 40Bs can get waivers. If a 40B can get a septic system, that can be a waiver, where residents can't. We're denying people putting apartments in over garages. That's the type of expansion residential would see. 40Bs get waivers from the state, so one way or another, the project could possibly happen if the ground perks.
Same question for Peter. Okay.
Say it again, please.
No more statements, just another question. Same
No,
question.
that is the question. The question is, how is this expansion of the sewer system I understand that it would be very beneficial for the Exit 8 and any economical growth we need up there. But this also could open a Pandora's box where residentials could really take in more areas. We can really expand certain areas more than it should be.
Okay.
What with the rest of the residents who aren't on it?
Yeah.
Well, the residents who aren't on, I asked that question in our meeting, would any residents, where it's going to be forced to go onto the sewer like Summer Street and Main Street were? And I was told no, it wouldn't be. So, as again, the expansion is going to go up to the mall, over to the MBTA, and it may go to the end of to Route 53 on the Duxbury line. So, and again, my biggest question is if it's not gonna be the cost to the taxpayers, and it's $18 million, and they don't have $18 million worth of businesses or residential who want more capacity lined up, who's paying for it? Okay, they're gonna have to take out a loan, who's paying for it?
Okay, let's go to our lightning round questions for the candidates here, Kathy.
Are you on
questions about sewer commissioner?
Are you on sound sewer?
No, I'm not.
Elaine?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I was going to ask, are you on sewer or septic? Ha.
She took
Well,
your
you already got
question.
your answer.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I don't have any lightning round questions.
Okay. We're
They-
tired.
Okay, we are tired. You guys are a good audience, though. Let's go to our closing statements. Do we start with you?
Yes, you did.
Okay, then let's start with Elaine. Fiore.
I've covered a lot based on the questions that were asked. I just want to say, the sewer expansion, the facts are, if it's not affordable to those who are interested in purchasing the capacity, the project will not happen. As far as the Kingston Collections being able to do something differently, at the meeting this morning, the owner of Kingston Collections told us they want to connect to the municipal sewer system. They're working with us on that project. We are not going, these are based on requests that we're getting, and the need is there. We're having outreach meetings, please come. What you've heard from my opponent tonight is hearsay, it's not fact. The facts are what I've told you tonight. It is not going anywhere down any other place but the existing sewer area in Exit 8. It will not be paid by the taxpayers. It's going to be paid by those interested in purchasing the capacity.
Thank you. That was Elaine Fiore. Closing statement, Peter Bonsek.
I first want to say it wasn't hearsay. This is the information I got from the Capital Planning Committee, so it was not hearsay. But some of the issues I have is, yes, they're going to leave it up to the residents. Well, when we only have 140 people going to town meeting, 99% of the time, it's going to pass. And that is a fact. And if it passes, it's something that I don't think the town, again, I still haven't got the answer on who's going to pay for the initial cost. And having a loan taken out by the town's going to pay for it. But the issue I have also is last year we had the Davis property. It had to be voted on real quick because of the purchase and sales that was in line. If we didn't take it, the developer would. This time I'm told that we need to know by June so we can get a 2% loan on it. So it's always, here you go, we need to do it fast. We need to do it fast. Well, it doesn't need to be done fast. It needs to be looked at more.
Okay, that was Peter Bonsek, and those are your two candidates for sewer commissioner. And if you're not going to, if you can believe this, we've come to the end of our program, ladies and gentlemen. These are the candidates you've seen tonight for 6 contested offices. As we said, it's great, looking at election season. Some towns this round have no contested offices. So this is terrific, and we appreciate the Democratic Town Committee putting this on. We appreciate PAC TV, their whole lovely crew here filming everything. And Jay Fitzgerald wanted to come up and say a few words. Did you want the microphone?
Members of the Democratic Town Committee are here. Will you come on up, Mr. Cook?